6:40 here. We should be going out live right now across YouTube, across my Facebook page and my Facebook profile. We're going out live across Rumble, across Odyssey, going out live across Twitter. So the whole gang should be here. So what the hell is going on with Kanye West? And he's just gone missing. How long till Kanye just completely backs down? All right, we got some analysis here from Daka. All right, Kanye missing. Here we go.
Of the internet.
Well, let's start it off here at double O. No, double O.
Oh, at double O, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Here's what happened, folks. Kanye is celebrating Saint's birthday at Kim's house. Now, Kanye is now being allowed to see his family. He's over at Kim Kardashian's residence. Suddenly, after that, he cancels all the interviews. Everything stops. What is going on? Now, it could be that Kim made him an ultimatum and said, listen, if you want to keep seeing the kids, you're going to have to cut this shit out. It could be that Kim put the ultimatum to him, listen, if you don't stop being yayed off, I'm going to make the kids trans. It also could be that Kanye was put down, Mossad, they waterboarded him, the Mossad agents did MK Ultra programming on his mind to set him up for the next stage of the arc. So they settled him down for this week. Like, your work is done for this week. Okay. They've got a trigger phrase to activate. We're not sure. Not sure where Ye is.
Yeah.
May have been waterboarded by Mossad, may have been blackmailed by Kim. Maybe his manic episode dissipated for a period of time. We go to the next slide here. We see the interview we were all looking forward to with Aiden Ross, who he's a Twitch streamer that does NBA 2K.
Yep.
This is who Aiden Ross is.
Old friend with, what's that bald guy's name?
He's like friends with members of the FaZe clan, and he's like in like a meme mansion house. Oh, Andrew Tate. Yeah, he's like Andrew Tate. He's like Andrew Tate's personal ball washer as well, and he's Jewish.
Yeah.
So apparently, the debate was going to be Aiden Ross and Hassan Piker on one team versus Fuentes and Ye. And because Fuentes and Hassan are both banned by Twitch right now, it was going to be Kanye just versus Aiden Ross, who's Jewish, yes, on the JQ, which I would have been fascinating to see.
Yeah. It's
been canceled. All the plans are put on hold. It looks like it's been successfully shut down. The PSYOP achieved its goal, but then Andy went one step too far.
What? No.
School of the Art Institute in the Chicago has taken away Ye's honorary art degree.
Oh.
We all know what happened to Adolf Hitler when he was kicked out of art school. The Adolf West has just had his art degree stolen from him.
Yikes.
Taken away from him. So now this motherfucker's on the warpath. He's looking for his fucking revenge, Andy. It's coming. Wow. And so if we go to the next slide, we can see he has officially filed. Oh, wait, even worse. Even worse. He painted over his mural in Chicago. He defiled it.
Wait.
He defiled it.
They legally painted it over?
Yes.
What the
Took it away
fuck?
from him. He's no longer a Chicago icon. It's all Nick Fuentes' fault. Good luck to Nick walking the streets of Chicago in the future, by the way. He's been activated. He's now officially filed his campaign for president. His headquarters is in Wyoming on his ranch, where he builds Star Wars-like geodesic domes for the homeless.
Okay.
Kanye not just filed his campaign, he's on the counteroffensive. Adolf is striking back. Also struck back last night, sending in his special operative to the Video Game Awards.
Yeah.
Let's have a look here at what happened.
I
so
watched
Game of
the
the
full fucking awards, and then when it ended, I was like, wait a second. Let me go back, and I rewinded it. I was like, no way, what the fuck? This kid, by the way, snuck on when the Elden Ring people won, which I'm glad they won, by the way, Game of the Year. This kid just like comes out of the middle.
Okay, so I was arguing a month or 2 months ago that you can't maintain a sustained place in American public life and be anti-Jewish or prominently, publicly, continually critical of any protected group in America. And this seems to be exactly what's happened to Kanye West. And remember, he set everything off with a tweet saying he was going to go DEFCON 3 on the Jews tomorrow. And then later he admitted that he was under the influence of drugs and alcohol when he made that tweet. So I think that, say with Mel Gibson, that the addition of drugs and alcohol, unleashed all sorts of things that were probably inside of Kanye West. Then he didn't want to back down. And same with Mel Gibson, that alcohol unleashed these anti-Jewish sentiments that were always there. But this is not a sustainable path forward. And you also see this with Richard Spencer. I mean, here in a December 13 space, he admits to being an alcoholic.
Many people, I've actually cut down quite a bit on alcohol. I'm proud to say, but most people on this call, we'll have a glass of wine with dinner or have a beer on the weekend or whatever. We're kind of functioning alcoholics. Let's be honest.
Right.
We can't really do without it. That being said, we're not in the gutter. We don't wake up in the morning and down a bottle of gin or something. And so addiction doesn't have to lead there.
Look, having a drink every night doesn't make you a functional alcoholic. And having a glass of wine here and a glass of wine there doesn't make you a functional alcoholic. Richard Spencer's talking about, most people on this call. I don't think he's accurate. I think he's talking about himself and simply attributing it to most people on the call.
And there are lots of people who will smoke a cigar on occasion, or they'll smoke 1 or 2 cigarettes or a day or something.
Right? There's absolutely no connection between having the odd drink, smoking a cigarette, smoking a cigar, and having an addiction. An addiction is when it's destroying your life. Right? If it's not damaging your life and it's out of your control, it's not an addiction.
It's a vice. It doesn't. But there is a very strong quality to addiction of you just need a stronger and stronger hit.
Right.
And so that happens to people. I mean, some people just they can't have a beer in their refrigerator, or they're going to end up in the gutter, at the end of the weekend or something like that. And I think porn really does have that quality, even for people who just kind of casually view it. I'm being totally honest here. I'm not a porn addict, but I'm also not innocent. I'm not going to ever claim that I don't look at it. I've never seen truly beyond the pale stuff, but sure, sometimes when you're watching it, you'll end up someplace and it's just like, what the fuck is this? This is really appalling. But you just kind of need the stronger hit. It's kind of like you go out drinking with your friends, you have a few beers, next thing you're doing Jaeger shots or whatever. Next thing you know, some guy has a harder drug. So it's a really dangerous thing, and it can really harm you.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. I have no doubt in my mind, particularly a young person who.
He seems to be speaking from personal experience here. So, have you heard of something called abductive reasoning? Right, that is reasoning like a detective. It's reasoning to the best explanation. And so the best explanation for the trajectory of Richard Spencer's life over the past 15 years would be alcoholism. Because he starts off so many projects and then they all turn to crap. They all just fall apart. And so when you're looking for just one primary explanation, which I think is better than all other explanations, some sort of alcoholism seems to me to be the best explanation, because it used to be whenever he'd live stream or podcast, he was drinking liquor.
Who doesn't have any self-control. They'll end up in some nightmare version of pornography pretty quickly.
There were even in that book, accounts of like homosexual men, their taste getting changed to where they like couldn't get off until they saw like women involved, and then it wasn't until they quit that like it went back to normal. Well,
so they
you know what I
became
mean?
more kind of like polymorphic or polyamorous.
Right.
That's interesting.
There were.
I've also there was something.
So at the end of the Sabbath, traditional Jews have something called the Havdalah ceremony, where you thank God for separating between Jews and non-Jews, between sacred time such as the Sabbath and secular time, between adults and children, between human and animals, right, between day and night. There are all these separations that are mentioned and celebrated in the Havdalah ceremony. And when you start diminishing these separations, then chaos ensues. So that's kind of the knee-jerk traditional conservative reaction to the idea of gay marriage, that if we just do away with these traditional separations, who knows what chaos will be unleashed. Dennis Prager phrases it in terms of rituals and ideas of separation and holiness. They protect ethics. So the Hebrew word for holiness, kadosh, literally means separate. So this idea of making separation, say, between male and female, with whom you have sex, is a vital part of Western civilization, because prior to Judaism, right, there weren't any civilizations in the world that were staunchly opposed to homosexuality. Judaism came along and said, to use Dennis Prager's language, you need to put the sexual genie in the marital bottle. You need to confine your sexuality to your spouse. And that's that constrained male energy. It unleashed civilization. And when you have people just running wild, things fall apart.
There was some article that I remember got passed around. I have to go look at it, but it was saying that men who viewed so-called like she-male or transsexual porn became more like accommodating to transsexual people because of porn. So like this bizarre fetish like changed their political outlook or social outlook.
That's why Alex Jones is a libertarian.
Right. We know, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it. Yeah, they're so afraid. Like, people, whenever you start talking about, like, banning speech or banning toxic material, people just get, like, you know, they're on edge when you say that. And it's because you're really tapping into something. They're going to miss this horrible shit they're addicted to.
Right.
Or they're typical Americans who love their freedom. Right? Freedom of speech is a huge deal for Americans. Their freedoms were frequently hard fought for. We had a revolution in the United States against the British to create independence. Freedom is at the very center of the American experience, and the idea of taking away that freedom, right, bothers people. I don't think that's a bad thing.
There comes a time when you simply conclude that someone is stupid and or a con artist.
Right, Richard Spencer here.
And that is what I have concluded about Elon Musk. Now, this is not to say that intelligent people are always right. No, in fact, they're often wrong. Maybe most often wrong, in fact. Most research is wrong. Most literary criticism is off base. But there is a difference, a distinction to be made.
So this is Richard Spencer going after Elon Musk as unserious and sociopathic, and our next president. Okay, Elon Musk was not born in the United States. There's no way he can become president. Elon Musk is a flawed man, and he does silly juvenile things. You can't really argue he's not a serious man. He's pretty close to the world's richest man. He's pretty close, this is a subjective category, the world's most interesting man. He's had a lot of failures, and he's said and done idiotic things, but he's a man of such tremendous accomplishment that to have someone like Richard Spencer say that Elon Musk is unserious just is hilarious. Right? Incredibly compelling and entertaining, but hilarious.
Everyone can fall into error. Everyone can have a false assumption or premise. Everyone can make a miscalculation along the way. everyone can reach a conclusion that's a bit of a stretch. I am certainly not immune to those issues.
Okay, let's fast forward.
For behavior. And that's very different than thinking. There's also a type of person, and I'm thinking here of the sociopath as an extreme example of this type of person, who doesn't...
So an analysis of CEOs finds that they do have an above average capacity for sociopathy, right? So often high accomplishment goes in line with some degree of sociopathy. So someone with some sociopathic tendencies is not a full-blown antisocial threat to civilization. So I'm sure Elon Musk has some antisocial or sociopathic tendencies, but I don't think sociopath is the most accurate descriptor for Elon Musk.
How much think as he or she targets a community of people and understands what affects them in a kind of stimulus and response type way, and then tells these people what they want to hear. This is the person who preaches to the choir, so to speak. This is the, in a rather benign example here, the kind of cheerleader or football coach who tells you you're the greatest and that he believes in you so that you'll go out and perform on the field.
So if you were listening to Richard Spencer a couple of months ago, he was talking frequently about how if Elon Musk takes over Twitter, he doesn't expect anything's going to change. So there's no apology here. There's no reference here. There's no acknowledgement of how dramatically he was wrong about the dramatic changes that we're now seeing with Twitter. We have far more freedom of expression. We have, a lot of people who are banned have come back. We have more lively conversations. Twitter is an infinitely better place than it was 3 months ago, thanks to Elon Musk. So Twitter has changed dramatically, the very opposite of Richard's prediction. And now he's continuing to trash Elon Musk as unserious and sociopathic. And on what basis? Like, what academic studies is this based on? What books has Richard read? No, none of those things. What articles has he read? No. He's watched some videos, right? He's watched some YouTube videos saying that Elon Musk is a fraud, and he's just buying into these YouTube videos.
That is a very benign example of maybe a phenomena that can often be quite malign. I think Elon Musk really is one of these types of people, and I don't think he can actually think. He's not as smart as he thinks he is, and he's not as smart as you think he is, perhaps.
I mean, Elon Musk runs SpaceX, which has already accomplished significant things. He runs Tesla, which is the most valuable car company in the United States, if not the world. I mean, he helped to run PayPal. I mean, he has such a tremendous track record that dwarfs anything that Richard Spencer has done. And yet this is Richard saying that Elon Musk is unserious and a fraud.
Let me just react to an example of this that has come up yesterday and this morning. So as you might have heard, Elon went on a banning spree. We'll see if these things will be permanent, but he went on a banning spree.
Yeah, and I think this was stupid by Elon Musk. Here's the problem with Richard's analysis and most of the mainstream media analysis of Elon Musk right now. There's no perspective, right? They take this example and this detail and this detail and this detail that makes the case for their preferred narrative that Elon Musk is a sociopath and a buffoon and a fool and a fraud. And yeah, you can take detail after detail after detail and make a case that anyone is a fraud. But you have to see things in the bigger perspective. Elon Musk has tremendous accomplishment. And Twitter is a much better place now than it was before he took over. Now, Elon Musk makes a bad decision here and a bad decision there, right? He makes some ridiculous tweets. He makes some bad decisions on the margin. Like he temporarily bans some people and then allows them back after a few days. But the big picture is that Twitter is so much better now than it used to be.
Of many mainstream journalists, some from the New York Times, CNN, and tech reporters, etc. And these are people who have been a thorn in his side. So it's obvious that this is personal. And it all relates back to an account which he also banned called Elon Jet, which was posting the flight plan, effectively, of his private jet so that you could know where he is. And some of these other accounts were reporting on Elon and linking.
So Elon Musk has changed Twitter to be much more restrictive and much more difficult to abuse children on. right, which is a great thing, right? He is taking steps to be more protective of children, and he is taking steps to reduce doxing. I think these are two great steps that Elon Musk is taking. Now, in the course of doing these two important, influential things that are making Twitter and the world a better place, he's made some bad decisions on the margins, it seems like. But you have to take things in perspective, in context. Overall, he's doing great things for Twitter, great things for the world, and some occasional detail he's getting wrong. There's this lack of perspective here in Richard's and mainstream media analysis.
To the jet, and they have all been banned. And as many have already pointed out, we have a repetition of the almost exact situation that we had with Hunter Biden's laptop. So, I think there is something, let's say, dubious about the laptop. Was it probably hacked by some entity who wants to help Trump, perhaps, but means America no good?
No. We have absolutely no evidence. All the evidence points against that. All the evidence points that the initial story is correct, that Hunter Biden brought it in and then left it at the repair shop, right? What Richard's suggesting here goes against all available evidence on this story.
In all likelihood. Who that was exactly, I have my suspicions, but I'll keep those to myself for the moment. But
all evidence goes against this. Here is Mickey Kals.
Bertrand mention of her name. That was another point I wanted, not a point I wanted to make, a question I wanted to pose. There was a string of tweets by a guy who was under Ratcliffe in the Trump intelligence bureaucracy. Ratcliffe was director of intelligence. I think that's the big intelligence czar. And when the Hunter Biden laptop came out, there were all these 50 people saying it has all the earmarks of a Russian, disinformation operation, and the press was suppressing it. And Ratcliffe went out and gave a press conference. He said, "We don't do that. It has no earmarks. It's not Russian disinformation. It doesn't."
Right. This is the head of the CIA at the time.
We have the laptops. We don't think that charge is true. And
there's absolutely no evidence that the Hunter Biden laptop story is disinformation or some Russian intelligence operation.
Natasha Bertrand called this lieutenant to Ratcliffe and said, and he told her again, "We don't think it's true." And she went ahead with her story and basically ignored everything he said. And her point was that his point was that she was just doing it in service of the narrative. But this is a high government official who can't get the media's attention. So what do you do? What could he possibly have done to get the apparent truth of the matter out, which is that it wasn't a Russian operation? The only thing I can, they weren't going to put him on Meet the Press because the press didn't want to publicize the laptop. The writers like her weren't going to put it in the mainstream media. The only thing you could do is do what this guy, famous Democratic operative Bob Mulholland did, or what they do in the movies. You have to go to the press conference and yell at them.
Mm-hmm. So the media tends to seize on a particular emotional tone for a story, such as the media immediately seized on the Hunter Biden laptop story as Russian disinformation, even though all the evidence said no. The media just gets a particular emotional tone, and then it seems like almost all the major players in the media kind of echo the same emotional tone, and it becomes blind to all contradictory evidence, and you just it verges on the impossible to try to break through the media narrative, which Richard Spencer is just mindlessly repeating here.
Was a real thing. There might very well be some false information implanted in this data stash that ended up at the New York Post via Rudy Giuliani or supposedly.
We have no evidence of this. All the evidence goes in the opposite direction.
Obviously through a computer repairman. But there might very well be some false information in there. But most of the information, maybe even most all of the information, is in fact real and has been verified. And so just on a level of the First Amendment and free speech and just civic engagement, people have a right, so to speak, to look at it. And I agree with that. And Elon is doing the exact same thing. The fact is, flight plans are public information. And someone is linked.
Some elements of the flight plans are public information, but other elements of the flight plans that the Elon jet tracker guy engaged in was not public information. It was private information that he got access to and then publicizes it. So there's all sorts of information that's in the public domain, such as home addresses, all sorts of information's in the public domain that if you publicize it, if you bring attention to it, you're effectively doxing people and damaging people, usually for no purpose, for no good reason. So I think what Elon Musk is doing in restricting doxing, restricting child exploitation, that these things are overwhelmingly good. And this idea that if the information's in the public domain, right, then therefore there's absolutely nothing wrong with publicizing it is just nuts. It's just wrong. There's all sorts of information in the public domain whereby if someone publicized it, it would be damaging, usually damaging for no good reason.
Linking to public information via Twitter.
So doxing information, like someone's address or location, is very different from a story with national security and national implications, right? Where Elon Musk is flying doesn't usually have national implications. If Joe Biden is getting a payoff, 10 million for the big guy, that does have far more profound implications than Elon Musk is having coffee at this Starbucks in Santa Monica.
See this all the time. There are accounts that track Bitcoin transactions. There are accounts that track what someone is doing on another social media site. There are accounts that simply reproduce public statements by officials or celebrities or whatever. There are fan accounts that are more or less doing what I'm describing. The idea that you would ban an account revealing a flight plan is public information. That is simply absurd.
It's not at all absurd. There's all sorts of public information about Richard Spencer that he would not like publicized. Right? There's all sorts of public information available about you and about me that we would not like publicized. And the Elon jet tracker is not just releasing public information. It's also taking private information, combining it with various public information sources. Also, you take public information here, combine it here, and you publicize it here, you're often completely transforming it. Just like when you take a molecule here and you combine it with another molecule, you can produce an explosion, right? So too, when you take public information here, public information there, and then publicize it, you can also produce an explosion. And frequently this explosion is not in the public interest, it's just privately damaging.
Exactly what the Hunter Biden laptop issue.
No, not at all. The Hunter Biden laptop issue is referring to damaging information about the man who could well become and did become the president of the United States. It's not just about Joe Biden is flying. All right, the exact analogy would be Joe Biden is flying from Washington, D.C. to Atlanta, right? That would be analogous. But that's not the Hunter Biden laptop story.
Was. And now you could, of course, point to the hypocrisy of liberal journalists who are up in arms.
Now, when I try to read on the Hunter Biden laptop story, I admit I just get bored. It cannot sustain my attention. So the Hunter Biden laptop story does not strike me as a hugely important story. Does not strike me as one of the 10 most important news stories in America in the last 2 years.
About the banning of some guy from the New York Times or an amateur user talking about Elon Musk's flight schedule. And yet they were in full support of banning the New York Post and people linking to it. I get it. It absolutely is hypocrisy. But you've got to judge these things on a case-by-case basis and to look at what the actual merits are. There might very well be hypocrisy. That doesn't mean that this is a sound decision. And the unsoundness of the decision is revealed by the way that Elon Musk discusses the matter. So this is a tweet from December.
Yeah, Elon Musk frequently discusses things in a fairly moronic way, right? He tweets on an adolescent level frequently. But you have to put everything in perspective. What he accomplishes, right? The grand sweep, the importance of what he's doing. And then you've got details that he frequently gets wrong or he presents in an adolescent
really
fashion.
Annoying nerd types. And they loved it. And this is kind of their own personal sex fantasy because they obviously are probably not surrounded by, attractive, robust women. And so they have some nerd fantasy about owning a sex bot or something like this. And he's just playing to them. And I think he's also playing to that, as I mentioned, that kind of hole in America's soul where we want a new Steve Jobs. And we see our very lives as polluting the planet. I mean, understand.
Wanting applause, appreciating applause, all right, that is very human. Now, it can certainly send you off in a bad direction, but it doesn't discredit everything you're doing.
Put global warming aside, just pollution. We all produce a bunch of trash. We're driving around polluting the air. We don't like it, and we want some vision that corrects this. Well, the problem is, even in best case scenarios, an electric car of any kind, no matter how coolly it's designed, doesn't actually solve any of these issues whatsoever.
That's not true. If we had more electric cars and fewer, regular cars in Los Angeles, we would have cleaner air, right? We'd have less air pollution. If, generally speaking, we got more and more of our energy from electricity as opposed to other sources, that would have, tremendously beneficial effects. Now, does it solve all, air pollution issues? Does it solve, all climate change issues? No. But it certainly makes a significant difference. And so, again, it's this lack of perspective in Richard's analysis, which I think is the shortcoming with Richard and with so much of the mainstream media.
Oh, it's Patsy.
Oh, like, why do you have a photo of your wife up so all the men?
Thank you, Laura Loomer. Fucking, why do you have a fucking?
That's fucking
Photo
jokes. Isn't that a bit cocked?
That is.
Isn't that a bit cocked?
When's her OnlyFans coming out?
She already had one, if you remember, the Pantsu OnlyFans arc when she was with Digi. She reviewed Lolicon and lingerie.
No, but okay.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. I want to know, like, why do you have a photo of your wife up so all the men in the chat can see what your wife looks like with half of her stomach showing?
I mean, she has a bare midriff there.
Yeah, I know, but like, I don't know.
Ralph's drunk.
Is that bad?
You're okay with that? I don't know. I'm just wondering.
Well, I mean, you seem to have an opinion about it already.
Oh my God, Ralph is trash.
He's
Ralph
seething.
is trash.
He got drunk. Was this at the point when he realized he was streaming with a furry all day? And he just got shittered, and then Laura Loomer came in and took a dump on his face.
Oh fuck.
No, I'm just wondering. I'm just wondering.
I mean, what are you wondering?
Okay,
I'm just wondering.
We're in fucking.
Would you show your bare midriff?
Because, like, I've had conversations. I have friends who are guys, and, like, some of them get, like, pissed because, like, they have a girlfriend or, like, a wife who posts on their Instagram, like, photos of themselves in their, like, bikini or, like, in crop tops or whatever. And so I was just wondering, because it doesn't seem to bother you. So I was just wondering.
I think there's a line on that sort of thing. I think this is a fair line. I mean, she's not wearing anything scandalous, in my opinion. I think that there.
Okay, here's Ralph talking about smoking meth.
Is without human dignity. So is a person who has no.
Okay, this is okay. Watch it. So they're streaming, and Ralph has no idea they're streaming. Okay, this was to be live.
Ralph.
Ralph.
bro.
We hear Ralph here. Okay, watch it.
Ralph. What's up, bro? Thank you, bro. Oh, wow.
He goes, do you want to hit a meth? First of all, I'm like, no, what? Like, what the fuck?
Thank you, bro. Oh, wow. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I do actually. You know what? Now that you mention it, I've been wanting to hit.
I do. I've been craving a hit of meth, Anda. Can I have a hit of meth?
What I'll do is, no. Come over here, buddy. Oh, it's actually going now, right? What? Can I get that picture while it's still going? Actually, you can't see it. Nah, we'll get one. We got the one that was like golden, but like.
Okay, so I'm gonna fast forward for a bit. So they're just smoking meth and talking, right?
Okay, let's go to the chat. Luke looks puffy in the face. Yes, I've been eating way too much ice cream. Like I thought, I get to Australia, I'm walking 10 to 20 miles a day. I thought, heck, this is great. I can eat, everything I want. And apparently I can't. I've been in Australia for 6.5 weeks now, and I'm the exact same weight. I'm about 170 pounds as I came. So I look better when I'm closer to about 160 pounds. So way too much ice cream. Right? Too many cookies. And despite, I can't believe it, walking 10 miles a day plus, haven't lost any weight. So that's why I got the puffy face. Yes, I've been stuffing my gob down under. Bell says, Tinder matures and adds relationship goals to profiles after rising situationships app in Australia. So it's adding a new feature. Yeah, I think this is an excellent idea. Is it true the Elon Musk flight logs have him going to Jeffrey Epstein's island? I don't know anything about that. Ye going missing in action is part of the redemption story. He's going to come out with secretly drinking with Mel Gibson. And that's where it all went wrong. But yeah, a lot of this crazy self-destructive behavior can simply be explained
outer show the week after
by
he has Ye in a
alcoholism.
mask say he loves Hitler and say,
Or
I got
drugs.
dragged into a publicity show. Oh, well, no. Oh, what a victim. No. You mean you invited Ye onto the show and gave him 3 hours, knowing this was going on, by the way, the Hitler thing, and pushing him on it and pushing him on it and pushing him on it. And then you're going to go and cry to Steven Crowder a week later and say, my God.
I'm pretty sure he tried changing the subject like multiple times.
Well, they kept bringing it back to it, but where he does get Alex here is Alex is like, well, it's a publicity stunt. Nick's like, okay, Alex Jones. Alex has never done a publicity stunt or went on shows before. I think he does have a point here, to be honest.
You're right.
And the thing is, Alex could have kicked him out at any fucking time, but Alex was desperate to fucking get an audience and have people come on so he could sell his vitamins and pay off his lawsuit and get attention. But it's disingenuous for Alex to turn around on them and be like, I had no idea I was an innocent victim in this. I wasn't profiting off of it at every turn. I think that is bullshit.
Alex is not going to pay that over $1 billion lawsuit settlement. He'll simply declare bankruptcy and come back under another LLC. So Alex is not concerned with paying off the Sandy Hook settlements.
That's why I did include this, to be fair to Nick. But I do find it funny when Alex calls them homosexual. And what Nick does with this here is pretty funny.
No, I'll be fair. Yeah, you're right. Like, it's easy to like try to hate on Nick, but yeah, Alex knew what he was doing. Like, Alex, that was the greatest like show you've ever. That was the greatest podcast ever. It ruled.
It was crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, Nick's right.
Victim of a publicity stunt. Publicity stunt. Okay, Alex Jones. Like, kidding me?
True.
It's honestly just like
Delivery on that
insulting
is
to his audience. I mean, come on. It's pretty rich. Number one, you wanted the show. You had no problem with it when it was streaming with the huge viewership.
Yep.
And then you're going to make it out like you're some victim. Like, you also had prior knowledge that he was on this wavelength. We know that. And then to say it's a publicity, now Alex Jones has a problem with publicity stunt? Well, that's pretty rich. And then he goes and calls us gay. He said that we're homoerotic.
Okay, well, this is where Nick, this is where Alex.
This is where he starts to go off the rails. Just a little bit here.
Yeah.
We're with him up until about this point.
Yeah.
We're trying to be fair and balanced as always on this show, in really good faith. The devil his due when he deserves it. But, let's see where he goes from here.
Fascination with Hitler, which I don't know what that has to do with it. And he goes, well, they're gay for Hitler. It's like, it's got nothing to do with being gay. We just love Hitler. No homo.
Oh.
Hey, Hitler, I love you. No homo. You know? Hey,
What a
no homo.
statement
Like,
to make.
holy.
We love you, Uncle H. No homo.
No homo.
Come on, Nick.
When you have to
it's
no
very
homo, the I love Hitler fucking statement.
You have to no homo your I love Hitlers. That's some down bad shit.
That's
bro.
kind of funny though. It is
Some
kind of funny.
sussy fucking shit. I think that's jokes.
Yeah, it is.
We love Hitler. So Ye, who is sort of an unexpected, surprising avatar for this, he's like the Joker. And he's been saying, I'm like a
Ye is
superhero.
like
I
the
want to be like a
Joker.
super.
We're on Joker mode now.
Yes. Yes.
Fuck.
Superhero,
You can't escape it, by the way. We're watching the Survivor season 9, right? Australian Survivor. And like one of the characters became the Joker, and now everyone calls him the Joker. And I'm like, fucking our drama show, the Survivor now. Everyone's the Joker. Holy shit.
I'm like doing something heroic, blah, blah, blah. But he said the other day in the office, he's like, but I feel more like Joker, he said. And I was dying at that. But it's true. Because like your Alex Jones and your Marjorie Taylor Greene, they're like the other criminals in Gotham in Dark Knight.
But Andy, pause it.
They're like the
We've got a breaking news alert. Really good news. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Alaska appealed to get back onto Twitter. He will remain banned.
No
Nick
way.
Alaska's Twitter will remain banned. RPG has broken the news on Twitter. I'm gonna retweet here. They've revealed his appeal, and his account will remain permanently suspended for violating the Twitter rules. This decision will not be reversed. Snitches get stitches.
There it is. Broken by RPG there.
This is with alt hype on Twitter. He's saying, why was the Kanye thing done Remember, the Borg can always just ignore things they don't want to be generally known. Kanye became a story because the Borg wanted it to be a story. So he's talking about the Borg as the establishment. As Musk takes over Twitter, what was played more on TV? The reveal that Twitter was a DNC op. Kanye's nonsense. Kanye's nonsense completely buried the Twitter DNC FBI reveal. Grand conspiracy or opportunity. So he's saying this was all a glow up to bury the Twitter files thing.
Holy shit!
It could be. It could be.
That's Kino.
Interesting theory from all type. And this Zoomer Groiper calls him out when you want to call out Nick, but you know you can't take the backlash. The struggle session begins. And he goes, obviously, Nick's made a serious error in judgment doing this. This is a bad move. Is that calling out? Sure, if you're a child or an African, it's calling out. Yes. The whole Kanye thing is really bad, obviously. That's not even arguable. And somebody asks, have you stopped streaming on Cozy? He says, I don't know, probably. We go to the next one. Now somebody says, I disagree. It's becoming harder and harder to find the full Ye interviews. They don't want you to listen to him. All type goes, are you intentionally missing the point? Right there, you just explained why this is an op. Full interview, hard to find. Only the cut-ups that make Kanye and by extension Nick look maximally stupid. Like the soda throwing cut-up. Is true. And this person goes, not trying to be annoying, but can you please call him Ye? That's his new name. Thanks, I love your work. And he goes, lol, no, Ye is a fake name. If he wanted to be called Jake or Billy or something, fine, but Ye is not a real name. Really based takes here. And here he comes after the struggle session. He says, officially done with Cozy. There's no button to take the channel down, but it's over. It's done. People didn't realize Nick sought me out to stream on Cozy. I didn't ask him. No more. Nick gave you a platform. The poison chalice is rejected.
He might as well have tweeted, fuck yourself, Nick.
Basically,
he may as well. Is this the next
Let's watch this struggle session. This is insane. This is the Groipers at their most cult-like. They're most fanatical. And it really shows what America First is all about.
Yeah, let me just say that right now. Resize everything here. Hopefully it works. Holy fuck. Folks, get Cozy. Pardon the pun here. This is an hour and 11 minutes.
It's pretty much good all the way through. We may stop at a certain point.
What's up? Can you hear me?
I won't
becomes
be
completely
like my normal self. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, will be.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah. What's up, man?
By the way, remember to hit like. And I'll find spots to actually read donos during the stream without being too intrusive. We love you, Walt.
Very interesting to most people.
Well, I'll let these people give it a try. We're here. It doesn't matter. I've been broadcasting for like 10 hours a day.
Okay.
So we have.
So here's what I was saying. Like somebody posted something about like what would the viewership of people be in an environment of no censorship, and I was saying that. I was basically saying that I thought that in an environment of no censorship, the TRS people would have more viewers than Nick Fuentes, because Nick Fuentes' viewership, as by all appearances, increased after he got banned from YouTube in particular, right? And so in an environment of zero censorship, so people thought that I was throwing shade on Nick Fuentes.
What a fucking evil crime. So the crime in which he's been pulled up into the high court of Ethan Ralph. He's now going to be inquisitioned by a guy named Banana. Okay. His high crime was saying, a world without censorship, he believes that Mike Enoch and TRS would be more popular than Nick Fuentes. Now, just to be clear, and I'm not a big TRS like NJP guy or anything like that. I've had my issues with that. But I believe that when TRS was allowed on Apple Podcasts, like they were like the #1 political podcast for like a while. I'm pretty sure that's the case. Like when they were allowed on Spotify and Apple and stuff like that, I think they were the #1 political podcast. I just want to make things clear. Like a lot of these Groipers are like teenagers, or they weren't around in 2016, 2017, and they don't really understand who All Type is. They don't remember him felting Kraut, felting the Skeptics.
He was amazing.
In the videos about biology.
No, he was great, dude. He was like top. He was top. Like of the line.
And if you're gonna question the Holocaust, I mean, this guy did a huge series on that as well. So if that's the direction they were gonna take things in, he probably would have been an asset to them on that. But his understanding of biology is leaps and bounds above like any of the Groipers. And also TRS, a lot of the stuff, a lot of the memes that people use and catchphrases and jargon was invented by Mike Enoch and by TRS.
Yeah,
these groypers have fucking no idea what the fuck they're even talking about or who helped pave a path for Nick. They're just completely disrespectful and full of shit, to be honest.
Well, and now you're going on all their talking points that TRS has been saying for like literally 5 years, more, their whole life, actually, right? And now you're on their side, but you were the ones who threw out all the wingnats, right? Oh, bad optics, right? Isn't that what happened? Or am I wrong?
Oh, I mean, that was the whole thing.
Yeah.
Is, oh, they have bad optics. And these groypers are going to come on and be like, oh, well, they're not as censored as Nick. Like, these motherfuckers can only take crypto and only take fucking checks in the mail. Okay? They've had to form, like, a political party to exploit loopholes to get
of modest backgrounds to rise in life based on hard work and energy and commitment. And you're right. We are such a grand country that has done so much for the world. I was talking this morning, just by coincidence, with the ambassador to the United States to the country of Netherlands, which has the second largest U.S. military cemetery abroad, and the graves there are tended by volunteers, Dutch volunteers, who come and tend those graves. And why do they do that? Because the United States came and in World War II helped to liberate their country, and the only thing we asked for in return was ground in which we could place our dead. And that's the United States of America, and God bless the founders of our country for setting us in the direction they did.
Absolutely. So easy to take it for granted. That's why you got to go out of your way not to. Let's talk about what's happening at the border. We've never seen anything like this, Karl Rove, and there's been talk about immigration problems and proposals, but we've never seen what looks to be basically an invasion. You know, in El Paso alone, there's an increase of 255%, and when Title 42 goes away on the 21st, we are expecting about 18,000 illegal immigrants a day. We can't handle 5. What are we going to do? Where is President Biden on this?
Yeah, look, let's put this in a little bit of context because we do have a big border in the south, and it takes a lot to protect it. We call those encounters. That's when the CBP, the Border Patrol, takes into custody somebody on the southwestern border. In FY20, there were 458,000 of them. That's the fiscal year that ended at the end of September 2020. 2021, there were 1,734,000. Fiscal year 22, which ended at the end of September of this year, 2,378,000. Think about that. That is over a 500% increase in 3 years. And in October, wow, the first month of the fiscal year, 230,000 encounters across the border. The anticipation is that in FY22, there were 600,000 getaways. Those are people who come across the border and are not apprehended and processed by the Border Patrol. This is a gigantic humanitarian crisis. These communities are being overwhelmed. Now, we saw recently in El Paso, a town of 678,000 people, 1,000 people primarily from Venezuela and Central and South America came across. Literally, there was no space in the shelters. These people spent the night on the streets, grabbing whatever kind of cardboard or paper that they could in order to start fires to keep themselves warm. We saw that, but that is happening in smaller towns all across the border where Eagle Pass or Yuma, Arizona. And it's amazing that we only grab it when we get into a big city and it collapses because 1,000 people have come across in a town of nearly 750,000 people. That ain't what's happening in these smaller towns. They're being overwhelmed almost every day by 250 or 300 people coming across.
And think about the states that got to write big checks of their taxpayer dollars, like Operation Lone Star in Texas and the operation in Arizona. And in New York, the mayor's asking for $1 billion. This is money for the American people, paid for tax dollars by the American people, but things got to change, and I think they know that. In fact, here's some Democrats weighing in. Tell me if you, Karl Rove, have a reason for hope here.
I don't know why they keep avoiding the border and saying there's other things more important than visiting the border. If there's a crisis, show up. Just show up.
We sent a letter very similar 3 weeks ago that said, hey, where's your plan? We never got a response back.
So would you ask them to wait?
I think that if they don't have a plan, then they need to wait to end.
I think it's important for the administration to recognize it's a crisis. We all know it's a crisis. When you have a crisis in your country, you should deal with it.
Elections are over. 3 Democrats weighing in, admitting what we all know. Is there hope there? Last minute.
Yeah, the Republican House is going to be able to work with people like Henry Cuellar of Laredo to add riders into the appropriations bill to put some policies in place. And I thought it was also interesting, John Tester, who's up for election in a red state in 2024, jumped on top of this. He's not on the southern border. He's at the opposite end of the country, but yet he understands how this is being taken so seriously by the American people. Republican, Democrat, or Independent, they think this is a crisis, and they do not understand why the administration is so passive and out of touch. When you have the Homeland Security Secretary saying the border is secure and they're seeing these pictures on the evening news, the American people know it's not secure.
He should not be in Delaware this weekend. He should be on the border. How hard is it to do your job? Karl Rove, thanks so much.
Richard Spencer thinks that basic bitch conservatism is boring and autistic, but the most conservative thing in the world is to protect your borders, to be very careful about who you let into your country, and to punish people who commit crimes, such as being in the country illegally. So it may be boring, but it makes such a significant difference to the quality of life in the United States of America. You can't have high quality of life and open borders. You can't take care of your own citizens and be open to any idiot crossing the borders. So maybe boring, but there's no more important issue than crime, and a significant component of crime is illegal immigration. Back to TPP, Kino Casino here talking about old hype's critiques of Nick Fuentes and TRS.
At any sort of payment processing whatsoever, okay? Like, they're just as censored as Nick, if not fucking more so. But the Groypers will try and cope and be like, no, Nick's the most censored, as though it's a competition. But like, alt-hype just raises this hypothetical. Well, I think maybe if it was all things equal and no censorship, that TRS would be bigger. Well, that's a fucking blasphemy. Can't fucking say that. So let's play it. Let's watch as he gets put up on the cross for this.
Yep.
Like that, but the thing is, he basically exploded after he got banned. So it's actually, so there's a lot of people who didn't understand the nuance of my point and thought that I was like attacking Nick or something, and so they got mad. And so and it's Twitter and
I mean,
that's literally all that happened, and people are thinking that I like, you're jealous of Nick or something. All
right, now by the way,
a lot of people,
thank you. First off, thank you for coming on the Sunrise here. We got 1,000 people watching live. Cozy.tv/Ethan Ralph. I have a couple of the people in there, I think.
Okay, so Stephen Miller has been doing some amazing things, and who was promoting Stephen Miller? It was Donald Trump. So Donald Trump did amazing things. He significantly reduced immigration. He significantly reduced refugee intake. He significantly strengthened border security. He significantly he absolutely crushed illegal immigration in 2020. And Trump has got some great points here. So a lot of stupid things that Trump does, but he also does some really good things. So
if we don't have free speech, then we just don't have a free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple. Just like dominoes, one by one, they'll go down. That's why today I'm announcing my plan to shatter the left-wing censorship regime and to reclaim the right to free speech for all Americans. And reclaim is a very important word in this case because they've taken it away. In recent weeks, bombshell reports have confirmed that a sinister group of deep state bureaucrats, Silicon Valley tyrants, left-wing activists, and depraved corporate news media have been conspiring to manipulate and silence the American people. They have collaborated to suppress vital information on everything from elections to public health. The censorship cartel must be dismantled and destroyed, and it must happen immediately. And here's my plan. First, within hours of my inauguration, I will sign an executive order banning any federal department or agency from colluding with any organization, business, or person to censor, limit, categorize, or impede the lawful speech of American citizens. I will then ban federal money from being used to label domestic speech as mis- or disinformation. and I will begin the process of identifying and firing every federal bureaucrat who has engaged in domestic censorship, directly or indirectly, whether they are the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Health, Human Services, the FBI, the DOJ, no matter who they are. Second, I will order the Department of Justice to investigate all parties involved in the new online censorship regime, which is absolutely destructive and terrible, and to aggressively prosecute any and all crimes identified. These include possible violations of federal civil rights law, campaign finance laws, federal election law, securities law, and antitrust laws, the Hatch Act, and a host of other potential criminal, civil, regulatory, and constitutional offenses. To assist in these efforts, I am urging House Republicans to immediately send preservation letters, and we have to do this right now, to the Biden administration, the Biden campaign, and every Silicon Valley tech giant, ordering them not to destroy evidence of censorship. Third, upon my inauguration as president, I will ask Congress to send a bill to my desk revising Section 230 to get big online platforms out of censorship business. From now on, digital platforms should only qualify for immunity protection under Section 230 if they meet high standards of neutrality, transparency, fairness, and non-discrimination. We should require these platforms to increase their efforts to take down unlawful content such as child exploitation and promoting terrorism, while dramatically curtailing their power to arbitrarily restrict lawful speech. Fourth, we need to break up the entire toxic censorship industry that has arisen under the false guise of tackling so-called mis- and disinformation. The federal government should immediately stop funding all nonprofits and academic programs that support this authoritarian project. If any U.S. university is discovered to have engaged in censorship activities or election interferences in the past, such as flagging social media content for removal of blacklisting, those universities should lose federal research dollars and federal student loan support for a period of 5 years and maybe more. We should also enact new laws laying out clear criminal penalties for federal bureaucrats who partner with private entities to do an end run around the Constitution and deprive Americans of their First, Fourth, and Fifth Amendment rights. In other words, deprive them of their vote. And once you lose those elections, and once you lose your borders like we have, you no longer have a country. Furthermore, to confront the problems of major platforms being infiltrated by legions of former deep staters and intelligence officials, there should be a 7-year calling off period before any employee of the FBI, CIA, NSA, DNI, DHS, or DOD is allowed to take a job at a company possessing vast quantities of U.S. user data. Fifth, the time has finally come for Congress to pass a digital Bill of Rights. This should include a right to digital due process. In other words, government officials should need a court order to take down online content, not send information requests such as the FBI was sending to Twitter. Furthermore, when users of big online platforms have their content or accounts removed, throttled, shadow banned, or otherwise restricted, no matter what name they use, they should have the right to be informed that it's happening, the right to a specific explanation of the reason why, and the right to a timely appeal. In addition, all users over the age of 18 should have the right to opt out of content moderation and curation entirely and receive an unmanipulated stream of information if they so choose. The fight for free speech is a matter of victory or death.
So why were we listening to Donald Trump read from a teleprompter? Because of the importance of what he was talking about. I think all of us could sign on with everything he was just saying. It was important. It was necessary. these are good ideas. So Trump does a lot of stupid things. He's not particularly good at running things, but he did do many good things as president, such as finally crushing illegal immigration in 2020. And these seem like various improvements with regard to social media and free speech in our country going ahead. So is Luke more worried about a surge at the border or a surge in Omicron cases? I am more worried about a surge at the border. Is Ukraine's border more important than our border? From my perspective, America's border is more important than Ukraine's border. I would expect that the overwhelming majority of Americans would care more about their own border and the welfare of their own country than about Ukraine. So I don't think we should be subsidizing or aiding Ukraine. I don't think it's worth risking World War III. I don't think if Russia takes a chunk out of Ukraine, that is some vital national security problem for the United States of America. Anonymous says, Nick Fuentes is entertaining and sometimes hilarious. That he is. I wonder which group of oligarchs is going to seize control of the republic and declare a dictatorship. Will it be the Zionists, the Democrats, the techno bros like Peter Thiel and Musk? It will be various people seizing the high ground of various parts of the United States of America. It's not like America is either a democracy or an oligarchy or a dictatorship. America contains considerable elements of oligarchy, contains considerable elements of dictatorship, contains considerable elements of democracy. We will have, Peter Thiel and Elon Musk will perhaps be dominant in some spaces. People like Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis may well be dominant in other spaces. America is too big and too complicated for any one group to have dominant control. So even if the Democrats have the presidency, the Senate, the House of Representatives, and control the high ground in almost all of our major institutions, they still don't have a stranglehold on America. Right? There's still considerable opposition to what the Democrats are trying to do. So why were we listening to Trump reader tell Trump that that's not the Trump anyone likes? Because of the importance of what he's saying. Ricardo, oh wow, I think I'll vote for him this time. I'm lulled to sleep by his monotone reading delivery. I don't even know what he's saying. Well, you don't have to be for or against Donald Trump. You simply have to make the best decision out of the available candidates. So one may well prefer, say, Ron DeSantis instead of Donald Trump. But if Donald Trump wins the Republican nomination, who are you going to vote for, Donald Trump or Joe Biden or Kamala Harris? I don't believe any of what Trump was saying because he was reading someone else's words. I think he said important things, and that Donald Trump said them, even though someone else wrote them, that will have a much bigger impact than if I say them or if you say them. I mean, Donald Trump's speech was on point. It may very well have been written by Stephen Miller. Donald Trump's campaign announcement speech of a couple of months back was seemed to be largely written by Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller did tremendous things during the 4 years of the Trump presidency, and Stephen Miller is still doing great things today. And let's have a look here. What have we got going on? We have blessings to Elliott Blatt.
Blessing, Luke. How you doing?
Good, man.
Sorry, I didn't get pretty well. I didn't see the notification that you were streaming, so I'm only joining relatively recently. So I just want to let you know that I would have joined earlier had I seen the email.
Okay, great.
So it's sort of it's apologetic blessings. Oh, I don't know. Like I sort of had this epiphany. Like I'll just run it by you, see what you think. Your consciousness politics should only occupy about 5% of your waking consciousness. You shouldn't. Anything more than that is just a misallocation of mental resources.
Okay, this is great discussion because I strongly disagree. If you're just talking about what's in your self-interest, aside from recreational use of politics, then I would say 0.1% should pay attention to politics. But the reason that you and I talk about politics so much is that we enjoy it. It's a recreation. So it's instead of talking about sports or instead of talking about video games. So this is fun for us. So for some people, occupying 10, 20% of your time talking about politics, it's a relatively healthy hobby. Now, if 50% or 90% of your happiness relies upon politics, obviously that's way too much. As far as though the impact on your daily life, politics compared to your ability to affect politics, right? You have virtually no ability to affect what's going on politically. So just in terms of pragmatic, self-care consideration, there's no need to spend any time reflecting on politics. But if it's entertaining for you, if it's a hobby for you, if it's a compelling interest, then I don't see why a recreational use of your spare time to study this topic is any less valuable than, say, studying sports or religion or culture.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, obviously, if it appeals to you and you find it satisfying, but there's a line that you can cross where you think one political outcome or another is going to really change you in a meaningful way. And I just don't think that's the case. I think you're better you're better served by developing skills, and it's just too easy to pick up the phone and kind of get lulled into this hypnotic drone of political opinion and then just sort of nod along when you hear things that you like, and then you cringe when you hear things that you don't like. It's sort of I don't know. I've taken a big step back personally, and I just remember, I grew up in the 80s, and politics. We would have a debate in history class or something, but that's it. It didn't really come out of the classroom. It was such a background concern, and we've gorged on politics for so long that I think it'd be interesting if people just kind of turned their back on it and, I don't know, kept noble silence instead. What do you think about that?
Okay, well, it's obviously this is individual dependent, right? Some people, it's not. For some people, it's at least as good for them as spending that time thinking about ballet. I mean, there's no inherent reason that thinking about ballet is superior to thinking about politics. There's no inherent reason why thinking about religion is superior to politics. There's no inherent reason why thinking about video games is superior to politics. So this depends on the individual, does it not?
Well, yeah. So if we're going to rank the two, I would be. People should definitely think about if it became a choice between politics and video games. I think politics would be a much better choice. Video games just could not be lower in my mind. I'm starting to see them as sort of right above pornography in terms of value that they create for an individual.
Wait. What's the? Let's say someone plays video games for 10 hours a week. What's the harm? Like, I don't think it's anywhere equivalent to pornography. Where do you see the harm?
Oh, no. I want to make sure that I'm not equating the two. I just want to make sure. Pornography is definitely worse, but the opportunity cost, and if it were only 10 hours a week, I wouldn't even mention it. But I really don't think it's only 10 hours a week, because that boils down to less than 2 hours a day. And I just get the sense that a lot of people are spending a lot more than 2 hours a day playing video games.
Okay, but compared to what? So yeah, if they were engaged in, let's say they're, instead of belonging to a swimming club or a soccer club, they're video gaming, I think we'd both say that belonging to a soccer or a swimming club is a better way to spend your time. But if instead of video gaming they were watching porn, I think we'd both say that playing video games is superior to watching porn.
Yeah, I agree, and that was my premise. I agree 100%. But I think we don't value the opportunity cost involved with video games. We don't we don't caution kids about the opportunity cost of video games to the extent that we should.
Okay, so let's say, let me just take a sample friend of mine. He is a hardworking bloke. He's got wife and kids. He pays his bills. He earns well into the six figures. He belongs to the Orthodox Jewish community, and he spends 6 hours a week video gaming. That's his, way to blow off steam. I assume you would think that there's no problem with that. On the other hand, let's take a 16-year-old kid who's spending 25 hours a week video gaming, and he basically doesn't have real life friends, and he's not engaged in real life social activities. Obviously, that's a big problem, right?
It's a very big problem, and apart from the friends, and the friends are important, don't get me wrong, but your 20s should be about apprenticeship, if not your late teens and your 20s. They should be about learning, you're laying down the foundation for a career. And I just think a lot of kids have skipped that in America, and they're being eclipsed by kids from other cultures and countries that haven't skipped that, and they're being outcompeted in the real world. And I just, obviously, reality bites in the end, right? Reality has the final say. Yeah. And I just think I think we've just sort of, we act like video games are more innocuous than they really are. And I'm seeing this every day. Now, obviously this is just sort of a hobby horse of mine that I like to, come back to, but just in my interaction with kids in their 20s, there's just this weird, fantastical world they seem to live in. And it's, I don't know, it's going to be a bitter reckoning for some of these kids.
Yeah, but also, if we go deeper, there's probably a deeper reason why they are video gaming. So many hours as opposed to real life activity. There's something wrong. There's a miswiring.
Well, I think it could be. I mean, in a certain sense, there's geographical isolation. So I think a lot of these kids live in places where, it's very rural. There's no there's not enough kids to get together to play basketball. There's just not enough social opportunity for them. And because of that, video games are just a substitute that they all, for natural reasons. I'm really trying not to blame kids for this. I'm just trying to say that, I understand why kids are attracted to these things. They're mesmerizing. They're fun. They're, but boy, man, the 20s, man, my 20s went by so fast, and I just don't think people appreciate how quickly time flows.
How did you misuse your time as, say, a teenager? So I think I spent too much time watching sports, too much time looking at pornography, too much time fantasizing, living in delusion, like kind of numbing out to fantasies about reality. How about you? How did you misspend your youth?
Probably playing chess. I probably played way too much chess. That was the video games of my era, and I don't know. I go back and forth on whether or not I spent a lot of time in athletics as as adolescent and early 20s, and I go back and forth on whether or not that was a good use of time, because I probably overemphasized athletics in my teens. And I felt, I didn't really, it wasn't until I was 25 that I decided to get serious, and I think that's, in my day, that was pretty late, but in today's day, I think that would be pretty early. I think kids today don't start getting serious until they're like 32.
And what about over the past year? Where do you think you've misused your time most prominently?
I honestly think I have used my time very well. I made a point about doing that. So I'm basically either working or sleeping. So I'm working, cooking, or sleeping, or calling it to Luke.
But you came on the show talking about how we spend too much time thinking about politics and how you dialed way back. So obviously you'd had some kind of revelation.
Yeah. So I don't think what was that Malcolm Gladwell, says the intellect, it rides the elephant of our emotions.
Yes.
You right?
Yeah.
I believe that's true. And I don't believe people are persuaded by arguments. And to sort of think that you can persuade somebody through argument is a fool's errand. And it's a giant misallocation of your time. I think people are persuaded by prestige and power. And if you really want to influence people, you need to acquire prestige and power for yourself. And that means working hard and being diligent and being honorable and being someone that people look up to. And there's no shortcut for that. And there's no time for video games.
Wait, no time?
I'm getting hard, bro.
Wait.
There's no time for video games, bro.
Why do people not get recreation? You can't work 24 hours a day.
No, you can't. But what goes along with video games is this sort of, I'm going to get some takeout food, and I'm going to just not pay attention to my diet, and I'm going to eat like a retard, excuse my language. And there's a whole lifestyle that surrounds video game immersion, and it's toxic waste, and it needs to be identified and confronted head on, bro. You should be cooking your own meals, eating solid, well-balanced food in moderation, and you should appreciate everything that you have, all the food that you have, everything that's been sort of given to you. You need to have this sort of dawning of appreciation for this. And you need to basically count your lucky stars that you're in the situation. And use it to become something great. Not take this weird shortcut of fast food that all these kids seem to be talking about. People talk unironically about eating McDonald's as if it's a good thing.
And how big a deal is it if someone eats at McDonald's? Like I just don't. I mean, I have some sympathy for what you're saying, but I don't see it as among our top 10 biggest issues. I don't see harm in eating, takeout or eating at McDonald's sometimes. Why the emphasis that you're giving to this?
Because it's it's many levels, but one level, the most basic level, your health, right? People in their 20s treat their health as if it's something that they're going to have forever. And as healthy as they are now in their 20s, they'll always be, and that they can abuse their body at will, right? And they can eat this garbage and there'll be no consequence, right? Or very minimal consequence. There's a certain, it's just so self-destructive. And so, the very baseline, your body, it's like good ideas and good being needs a strong body to take root in and bloom in, and it's not, it's the attitude along with this is there's a certain attitude of appreciation for the whole cycle of life, and fast food just sort of cuts that off at the knees. I'm trying to make a very subtle point, and I'm not doing it well. I apologize.
No, I hear your point. I think you're making your point as well as it can be made. If there are any inadequacies, I think it's in the point itself, not the way you're making it. Okay, so this is something that's been important to you for a long time. How are you ahead of the game as a result of the diligence that you give to this?
I think my mood is pretty stable, for one thing. My health is pretty stable, apart from my asthma. I always have a certain satisfaction in accomplishing something with manual skills, and not just, to contrast these with my sort of, software skills. There's a certain rootedness that goes on that's attendant to taking care of this sort of base primal need that you have of properly feeding yourself. There's a certain satisfaction that grounds you to the earth, and it sort of connects you with other people who you don't see. You realize that you live comfortably because a lot of people do a lot of different things that you don't see, right? So so a bunch of vegetables aren't merely the vegetables. They're the result of a lot of work performed by a lot of different people doing a lot of different things to make sure that you have this. And so it's sort of, I don't know, it's a quasi-spiritual experience if you take it seriously.
I mean,
there's a certain gratitude that comes with this.
It's another way to feel superior to other people.
Or it's another way to feel humble, bro.
So what is it for you? Is it primarily a way to feel humble, or is it primarily a way to feel superior to the great unwashed who are not preparing, the good, healthy meals that you are?
It's a way for me to feel, it's a way for me to embrace reality at a very base level, at a primal level, and at a true level, and at an authentic level. So I really don't think we've ever connected on this point, and I think it's a shame, because I think it's real. I think
I absolutely believe it's real. The only area we differ is in the relative level of importance. So you give it more importance than I do, but I fundamentally agree with everything you're saying.
Okay. So, but this came up in the context of video games, right? Mm-hmm. The reason people can spend hours and hours in video games is because they pay no consideration, or very little or minimal consideration, to how they feed themselves. And I think there is a debt, right? We live in a world, reality ultimately collects its debts, right? Even if you're not aware that you're accruing them, right? You suddenly get a bill, and it's reality that's come calling. It says, you owe me this. And you're like, whoa, bro, I didn't even know I took out that loan. Well, you are the way you're living, right? The way you're living, even though you're an American, you're living in America, and you have your freedoms and so forth, you're still subject to a wide variety of laws, of universal laws that you need to obey and understand and accord yourself with. Otherwise, you're going to come to some very bad ends and have some very bad outcomes.
Okay, so on a scale of 1 to 10, I think I would accord what you're talking about a 2 in relative importance, with 10 maximum importance. On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put the relative importance of what you're talking about?
I would put it at a 7.
Okay. And where would you put belonging to a community, any community? Soccer club, church, political organization, on a 1 to 10. See, I would put that at a 9. Where would you put that?
I don't mean to weasel out of this, but it truly depends on the community. Like belonging to the wrong community is far worse than belonging to no community.
Okay, let me phrase it another way. I think having friends is 20 times more important than cooking your own meals. How would you rate the relative importance of friends versus cooking your own meals?
Not to weasel out, and I hate to say this, but it truly depends on the friends. Now, there's a lot of people that I would call friends and they would call me friends, but are these people going to help me in my hour of need? I don't know. Probably a lot fewer. So, yes, having friends is important. But having true friends, I think, is a function of being grounded. Like, and by being grounded is somebody that's really willing to sacrifice for you. Like they can put their own need for sensory pleasure ahead of you, right? And I don't know. I think the quality of friendships has been degraded. It's been sort of this subtle draining that's taken place because of social media. That friendships have become virtualized, and there's no sort of blood and flesh that's sort of backing this. And I don't know. I feel as though that is sort of a hidden, creeping cancer.
So you've set it up so that what most people call friends are not really friends.
Okay, so
is that fair?
I understand that. So, yes. So when you say friends, let's define friends. I hate to be too spurgy like this, but
okay, I would say that you and I are friends. I have never met you in person, and it is highly unlikely that I would fly up to San Francisco to help you move, or I probably wouldn't do it to visit you in hospital. But there are ways that I would be there for you that, don't immediately come to mind. So I know there are ways that I would fail to live up to your standard of friendship, but there are other ways where I would. And so people are complicated. Sure. Like someone will help you move, another person won't help you move, but he'll lend you $1,000. Another person will spend 3 hours on the phone with you when you're going through a difficult time. Another person will only spend 5 minutes on the phone for you, but he'll help get you a job.
Fair enough. And you make a good point. Now, let's say you did live in San Francisco and I broke my leg. I need to ride to the hospital.
Yeah, then I would, if you broke your leg and it was like the sensible thing to do would be for someone, a friend closest to you to give you a ride to the hospital, then yeah, in all likelihood, I would do it.
Okay. Yeah, I would do the same for you too, but I'm not going to, or put it this way. If I were the absolutely only person that you needed a ride to the hospital from, right? I would strongly consider flying down. But okay, so obviously people need friends. You're not breaking any ground here when you say having friends is more important than eating well, right? It's a dimension of life, and you need a certain number of friends, and the more the better. But there's Facebook friends, right? There's people that like your tweets. And then there's people who live near you and are ready to go to bat for you and help you out in your hour of need. So it's those friends, the latter category, that are the most important and that really matter. And so what I'm saying is grounded people who aren't living with biological chaos in their system because they've eaten so poorly, are those people that are capable of being true friends. That's the point I'm trying to make. I'm trying to connect the two ideas here.
And what's, I think, more important than having friends and cooking your own meals is having family. Being married and having children. I mean, that's where most normal people devote themselves. So you see people like me who's 56 years of age. I don't have kids, so I have this tremendous need for excitement, part of which I meet through doing these live streams. If I had children, I wouldn't have that need for excitement. I would just be primarily devoted to providing for my kids, providing for my spouse, and building something for all of us to go forward.
Fair enough, but I think you like to flagellate yourself about this. I don't think everybody is cut out for family life, right? I honestly don't. I don't my sister really couldn't wait to have a family, and to me it seemed like a burden. And I honestly think I think most people crave those things, but I don't think you should necessarily, you seem to be measuring yourself against this, a belief and expectation, and you won't give yourself a break about it. You feel like you need to sort of flagellate yourself.
Okay, do I sound like someone who's flagellating himself? I mean, do you think I'm walking
Yes, you
around
do,
miserable because of this?
Well, you bring it up a lot.
Because it's a very important thing. I can't think of anything more important than whether or not someone has a family. I think it's absolutely important for discussing issues on the show, discussing one's relationship to the world. I think the single most important issue is whether or not one has a family. That has the biggest effect on one's worldview, on one's behavior, on one's priorities, on how one conducts oneself in business, in social arrangements, in community, online. I think that probably the most important issue, just off the top of my head, is whether or not one has a family. And so I would want to bring that up. But what do you think?
I think the most important thing is that someone know themselves. And often having a family is a path through which one ultimately knows themselves. And so, yes, having a family is important, and it is a very, important vehicle through which one knows oneself. But it is just that. It is a vehicle, right? Ultimately, we're individuals, Luke. Family, no family, group, no group, tribe, no tribe. Ultimately, you are an individual, Luke, and you have a very specific set of questions that you need to resolve, or energies that you need to understand, that are even more important than whether or not you have a family or not. What do you think?
This is key. This is where we fundamentally disagree. See, I don't think that we are primarily individuals whose primarily purpose is to know themselves. I think we're primarily members of families and extended families, and self-knowledge and knowing yourself, I don't think is in your top 5 level of importance. So I don't see myself primarily as an individual. I see myself primarily as a member of a family and an extended family, a tribe. So you've got an individualized self-fulfillment, self-knowledge understanding of how people work, and I have a tribal understanding of how people work.
That sounds true. I think that's a fair distinction. I think you characterize our disagreement accurately, and I will give your point of view some thought. But for me, it's always seemed as though I am responsible for this situation, right? And because of this, I don't get to blame my family. I don't get to blame my tribe. I don't get to blame my country. I don't get to blame anybody else. I have this radical sense of personal responsibility for everything good and everything bad that comes to me. And I feel that makes me, it sort of defines who I am. It allows me to play the game in a way that makes sense.
And almost everyone says or ascribes to what you just laid out. Like anyone who speaks publicly on any related issue makes the same point that you're saying. It's like, I take responsibility. I'm not like those losers who, blame their parents or blame society or blame their family for their problems, right? That's probably the dominant perspective.
Is it though?
In rhetoric, but there's no necessary connection between rhetoric and reality. I mean,
well,
who's out there saying, I don't have responsibility for my behavior? Not many people.
No, I think most people, right? I mean, the whole woke phenomenon is not just a bunch of complaining about other people doing people wrong.
Yeah,
right?
But I mean on the right side of the fence, on the right.
All right, so on the right side of the spectrum, yes. So my point of view is more common among them on the right. I grant you that. Okay, put it this way: when I find myself blaming, family members for why certain things haven't worked out in my life, right? I have these moments of anger and resentment, and thinking about the way things turned out in my family, and I'm blaming them, right? There's always this sort of, I have to consciously stop myself. But if I were to allow myself to sort of sink into this sort of surrender of responsibility and agency, I feel like I can't do that. Otherwise, it would all unravel.
You don't want to. What is there a difference between blaming family and coming to terms with one's life and one's habits and with the arc of one's life and one's narrative? For example, let's say one had a family member who punched you so severely in one eye that you're forever blinded in that eye. Is one allowed to spend time accepting that is a significant loss? And let's say you provoke the family member, and so you played a huge role in the fight that led to you losing one eye. So, for example, we all learned certain adaptive and maladaptive habits growing up in a particular family. Is it okay? Is it, in your view, to spend some time coming to terms with maladaptive habits that we may have picked up from our family?
Oh yeah, I'm not. I mean, yes. So I'm not blaming people for having feelings that they have. I'm not blaming myself for having feelings that I have about certain family members in certain situations, right? But at the same time, I see that, in a way, it's a sort of spiritual surrender, Luke. It's like, well, if this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm meant to feel, because there's a lesson here, right? It puts me in this really introspective frame of mind, and it's sort of, well, can my power of introspection overcome these really strong negative feelings? Right. And so it's sort of like a battle ensues internally inside. Right. And that is the battle that I feel like that's why we're here, Luke. Does that make sense? Like, it's the resolution of these things, these knots, these tensions that ultimately are what are worthwhile.
Yeah, so you have a hero system, right? There's the heroic quest to resolve these tensions, and that's your hero system. And that's the significance and the purpose and the meaning of life. So other people believe in Judaism, other people believe in Christianity, Other people are primarily obsessed with politics. You have a hero system where what is heroic is to resolve these inner traumas.
But yes, and I'm gonna make a bold assertion here. I think you have the identical hero system that I do, and you're doing exactly what I'm doing, and you are arguing with me because you can't accept what I'm saying because you know what I'm saying is true about you.
Wait, what are you saying about me that I can't accept?
So you're saying the most important thing people can do is to have a family, right?
Yeah.
I
said,
right?
Yeah, for most people. For most people,
For
having
most
a family
people, okay.
is the
For
most
most
important
people,
thing.
so we're saying the exact same thing. I'm saying for most people that's the right thing. You're saying for the most people, so we agree on that score, right?
Well, we agree on everything. It's just the relative importance. Like you put relative importance on preparing your own meals. I put more importance on community, friendship, and creating family.
Yes, but I realize you don't like to cook, and I really feel like this whole meal discussion has been a small detour. But you're there in Australia, Luke, going on these marathon walks because you're obviously processing something that's quite emotional in the end. It's not intellectual, and you need a lot of space to do it in, and that's why you're in Australia. And I think more power to you, because you're not back in LA like on the dating scene trying to get married and have a family. You're doing
Correct.
what you're doing because what you're doing is what you need to do, and I'm here to support you, Luke.
Thank you. That means a great deal to me. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. I just wanted to get back to Australia, and things just lined up to make it possible. But yeah, maybe I'm just primarily processing past trauma because I'm getting together with including people I haven't seen in 45 years, like people who were mates of mine in school from like grade 2 to grade 5. I'm spending time with family. I'm spending time with childhood friends. So yeah, I am going over a lot of childhood wounds and things that I and we struggled with in childhood. That is a great deal of what's going on right now.
I wish you nothing but success in this journey, and I think it's totally worthwhile. And I think you need to listen to the voices that put you in this spot. So whatever voice you listen to that put you in this spot obviously knew something that goes against your ideology, Luke. It goes against everything that you profess to be true. You're nevertheless doing something else because some voice inside you told you that this was the most important thing to do, and so that's what you acted on. And I'm saying it's okay, bro. That's life. That's why we're here.
Thank you. And when you have this rhetoric of taking 100% total responsibility, what does that mean practically for you? Because very few people, if you ask them directly, do you take responsibility for the trajectory of your life, would say, no, I don't. But what does that mean practically for you?
So it comes okay, ultimately, when times are good, I don't really engage in much introspection, right? When times are bad, however, that's when the introspection starts, and I'm like, God, I hate this. I fucking hate this. I really hate this. Why am I enduring this? Why did this happen to me? And then I sort of have a line of questioning. I go down. What is the lesson here? Why? Because ultimately, what underlies my worldview is that things happen for a reason. It sounds a bit Panglossian, but it is true. So, my thought process goes something. Why did this happen? I really hate this, and then it's like, okay, that's like the first stage. That's like the Kubler-Ross first stage. Then it's like, okay, what am I meant to learn by this? Okay, have I ever done anything worthy of this? Of receiving some kind of retribution like this? And if no, I'm like, really no? It's this type of inquiry that goes on. And then it's like, finally, it's like, Okay. Okay. I don't quite understand what I did, but I'll just pay my dues, recognizing fully that this will become clear to me later on. So that's how I apply this worldview of mine.
And you mentioned that you spent less time paying attention to politics. So what did that mean practically? Less time on Twitter, less time watching politically oriented live streams. What did that mean practically?
All of the above. I haven't paid any attention to this whole Yay situation. I assume that's going to blow over. And I sort of say I just sort of look at this and I say, yeah, I do continue to listen to politics, but B, it's I'm at least a little bit introspective, well, what do I hope to get out of this? What does it mean if this breaks one way or the other? If Elon does this or that, why do I care? Why does it really impact things? Or I have a feeling that, we get the government we deserve, right? This is how I look at it. We have the collective IQ that we have. And as a result of that, we're going to get a government and there's going to be politics that basically reflects that IQ. And my job isn't to lament the fact that we have such low IQ. My job is to raise my IQ. Using IQ a little bit loosely here.
Yeah, you don't mean literally, because there's nothing literally we can do with our IQ. But yeah, I understand. And so, have you bought any of Trump's NFTs?
I have not. I've closed the Trump book. I'm afraid I can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. I'm sad to say. I'm grateful for what Trump has given us, but ultimately, I think he inspires his enemies more than he helps us. He's just not the right person for the times anymore. His hour has come and gone. So it doesn't mean I hate Trump. I just that whole shtick of his just rings really hollow to me now.
And what do you think about Mike Lindell, the My Pillow Man, getting back on Twitter?
Oh, ecstatic, Luke. It's ecstatic. Finally, the truth is out there. The truth will come out.
And how's your Whole Foods experience these days? How do you appreciate their music?
Oh, it's bliss, Luke. It's there's been a decision made at Whole Foods that said, okay, let's see who our shoppers really are, and let's see what music they like to listen to, and maybe not play so much rap and not play so much Motown. Let's play the music that they grew up listening to, and maybe their shopping experience might be a little bit better, might be a little bit more enjoyable. They might tarry a little longer at the deli counter and get an extra slice of pizza. There's just been this really, and I attribute this to AI. I think they crunched some numbers and figured out, who really shops at Whole Foods. And I think it's been bliss. How about you, Luke?
I haven't gone to Whole Foods, but I don't really have a strong opinion. So what are you listening to on the radio? You used to listen to, was it K-Bone?
Oh, it was The Bone.
The Bone.
107.7, The Bone. Yeah, the hard rock station. Yeah, it's been probably a year now. The repetition got to me too much. However, I checked in with NPR again yesterday, thinking, I keep going back. Every 2 months, I think, well, maybe I can try a dose of NPR, see if I can stomach it, It's so bad, Luke. It is so bad. It is so much worse than it ever used to be. The wokeness has seeped into the core of NPR, and it is unlistenable. Have you tried? Do you?
I have not. But But for your listening
No, but it's like
pleasure-
one woke platitude.
Go ahead.
It's just one woke platitude after another, right? And they just build on each other. And nobody ever dares question. Like yesterday's conversation was about environmental racism. You ever hear this term?
Probably.
That minorities live.
Yeah.
Minorities live in areas where, you know, the environment isn't clean. You know, usually industrial areas, things like that. And this is because of racism, as if some magical force, some cadre of evil whites have decided this is where the blacks live, you know, and it just so happens to be, you know, a formal industrial site that has really shitty soil and water and so forth. And this was just taken as a given that, you know, in the context of the NPR report. And really what was happening, you know, no one could even, like, the explanation was so obvious. You know, I'm like shouting at the radio, you know, and not nary a word about an alternative explanation, which would be that, well, these sites cost less money to live in because no one wants to live in there because the desirability of these places is a lot lower, and therefore people with less money tend to move there. So it really wasn't a function of racism. What it was a function of income. And there was no racism whatsoever. It truly was about economics. But that point of view is just not presented on NPR. And this is theoretically the high IQ station, right? This is where all of the big brains listen. And what you're getting is just such pablum that it's embarrassing.
So,
Sorry, bro.
if you want high IQ entertainment, Christopher Cantwell's out of prison, and he should be restarting his podcast.
Oh, I can't wait. That was quick. How long was he in?
He paid his debt to society, bro. A couple of years.
How long was he in?
Something like 2 years.
And what did he actually go in for? Threatening some woman online or something?
Threatening people, I think.
So back to New Hampshire, huh? Yeah, it seems like a distant era now. That you had him on your show, didn't you? A couple of times.
Twice, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, he's a bit rough on the edges, no question. I was just thinking about today, Luke, the like that 9-hour marathon with oh no, I forgot his name.
Jim
Stryker.
Eric Stryker. Yeah.
Do you remember that? Like, you basically had an all-day argument with Eric Stryker.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That was like, I don't know what year that must have been, like 2018, maybe.
Yes, definitely.
This was when you were just kind of getting into your streaming career.
Yeah.
And you had it's a lot of commitment, man. It's a lot of commitment. But you know, of course, there's a line which you should like find and like put on your highlight reel, which is when Eric Stryker was complaining about, was it Goldstein? Or who was the guy that the Screw magazine? What was his name?
Oh, Al Goldstein.
Goldstein, yeah. And so basically, Stryker read back that quote, and then you turned around and you said, "Well, do you know who he gave that quote to?" Do you remember that?
Yes.
That's probably up there. That's like, it has to be one of your top 10, if not top 5. Like,
what about when I
highlights.
had E. Michael Jones on and he thanked me for red pilling him on the JQ?
That's a good one. I don't recall. He did that on one of your streams.
Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't catch that one. But I think the Stryker one was priceless.
Yeah, that was fun times.
So what's gonna come of old Elon? Have you already discussed Elon? I don't want you to tread on old ground, but
I think Twitter's a better place. So I think Elon's going in a great direction.
Yeah. So what do you think about all these side dramas? You know, like the FBI blocking this journalist, and you know, is he not committed to free speech, etc. You know, all this sort of. He just seems to be at this this eye of this hurricane, and they're like, how long can he last? Do you think the pressure is getting to him? Like, it's all Elon all the time, as far as I can tell. I mean, if you go on my YouTube feed, every other story is about Elon in one way or the other.
Well, I think that gives him a tremendous amount of energy. So I think that's firing him up. So I think he can last as long as it takes until he's ready to turn Twitter over to some other CEO like David Sachs from the All In podcast.
I don't know who he is. If that was a joke, I don't know. I didn't get it. Well, Tesla's stock has been sinking pretty substantially. And people theorize it's because he's selling his Tesla stock. He's a big shareholder. He's selling a lot of his stock because he has to subsidize Twitter. And so that was you.
Yeah, hey, I gotta run off. So let me talk to
All
you
right,
another
bro.
time.
All right, peace.
Okay, bro.
Shalom.
Okay,
All right,
take
all right,
care.
blessings.
Okay, guys, I have to take a 20-minute break, but I'm going to keep the show rolling. I'm going to carry my phone with me. So if anyone else calls in and I'm not at my laptop monitoring, just say, "Hey, Luke, what the hell, man?" And let's get some old hype versus the gripe as
People
well.
are
Step
thinking
away.
that I like. You're jealous of Nick or something.
All right. Now, by the way, thank you. First off, thank you for coming on the Sunrise here. We got 1,000 people watching live. Cozy.tv/Ethan Ralph. I have a couple of the people in there. I think they were in the thread. If you want me to bring them on,
I mean, if you're starving for content, fine.
Yeah,
but otherwise, I would
argue.
do something else.
Let's just argue. If it gets too crazy, I'll just cut it off. But go ahead, Banana.
Hi, Mr. Type. I wanted to ask, why were you calling Nick gay 2 days or a day ago in your Twitter replies? You were subtweeting him.
Now, where are you calling him gay? I mean, I guess that has been alleged.
Yeah, you were implying.
Now, wait, hold on. I was asking. Hold on. Wait.
Oh, yeah.
I was asking. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I don't have an eidetic memory, but there's another comment saying that they think Nick is asexual, and I posted a comment saying, "Yeah, or maybe ... So, but I mean, it's not something I typically like to make a big stink about, but and it's not something that I talk about very much. Yeah, gayish, less than before. Milo said something that a lot of people didn't understand, which was that he was basically done being gay, and like if you're not gay, you're not going to get that. You're not going to understand what that means, and you don't need to understand. Yeah, basically. Although I have had relations with women before, but anyway.
Okay.
But
that's even more gay.
Now wait, let him speak. Go ahead, Ryan.
Dude, that's super gay. But I mean, if you want to you're the one trying to open this can of worms. But okay, Nick Fuentes is a pretty attractive millionaire, so he's not an incel. I mean, if you see a guy who's attractive, who's an attractive millionaire and is just not getting around, doesn't have time for sex, like. That's it. I mean, like to the outside, it just sort of like it's kind of seem. So that's why I said I'm 50-50. But I don't really want to bring it up. Although I do have. I guess I have a sort of OCD that I feel compelled to respond to people on the internet. So I end up saying that. But it's not something that like I would talk about. If for example, if you didn't prod me into talking about it, it's not something that I would really care about. Right?
Oh, you would just subtweet him. Okay, you would just subtweet Nick. You wouldn't like say it out loud. Okay, interesting.
Now, what do you say? I mean, is it?
I am saying it out loud. What do you say out loud?
Because I brought it up. You're saying it because I brought it up and I forced you to come into this call. I didn't force you, but I like really heavily.
Well, I asked him to come in.
Yeah. Like if it wasn't for people in the chat and trying to like get you to join, you wouldn't have like talked about it at all. You would have shoved it under the rug because you were subtweeting him. You were in a reply of some random guy saying that Nick is sussy. I don't know about that.
What is subtweeting? I'm sorry.
I guess he's saying. No, wait, hold on. Let me. Yeah, I guess he's saying you were kind of talking sneak dissing, talking shit off to the side without tagging him in or officially addressing him. Although you did say it publicly, so I would assume.
Okay. Then I'll tag Nick Fuentes.
It wasn't a reply. The point was that people wouldn't see it unless they like actively search through your account.
Oh.
Yeah.
Dude, so I should
I'm just saying you're gonna call somebody gay, right? At least have the guts to do it on the timeline. You're gonna say he's 50-50 gay, so I don't know, he might be gay, he's 50-50 gay. I mean, he's given you a platform, he's been very good to you, he's been respectful to you, and you're in Twitter. First, you're saying he's gonna be less successful than Mike Enoch if there was no censorship, which isn't true, and I will get into that later. Second of all, you're saying he's 50-50 gay because he can't be an incel, you can't be celibate if you're a millionaire. That doesn't make any sense. And then you're just like, now you're opposite.
It's possible if you're like, but the thing is, here's another thing.
You're sneak dissing.
Well, I'm not sneak dissing here. I'm on the Ralph retort right now. So there's no sneaking here.
Well, you were.
Okay, let him finish. Let him finish, Banana. Stop cutting off. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. But the thing is, another thing about Nick is that he's not, well, I don't know, maybe he is, but he doesn't appear to be socially awkward. So attractive, not socially awkward, millionaire,
he's gay. Okay. So you don't think he's asexual?
Hold on, wait.
Let me put it this way: if it wasn't Nick Fuentes, who and you saw a person that had these traits, what would you think?
If they were religious, they were religious, and they had a certain personality.
Well, okay, then all right. Well, then maybe we differ.
Yeah, we do differ. Yeah, I don't think Nick is gay. You think he's gay? We do differ. Yeah.
Now let me ask you.
I'm 50-50, but
well, I'm 100% that he's not gay, and you're 50-50 for some reason. I don't know why.
Now let me ask you all. Do you think that it's shit talking too? Like he said that Nick gave you a platform and all this stuff. Do you see it as like disloyal to say that about him, or is that you feel like it's just an observation you're making? No big deal.
I was just making an observation. I didn't think it was disloyal. I mean, I've said in several streams that I think America First is like in the top 0.1% of like political clubs in terms of just how good their message is. Cozy, like Nick basically kept alive an entire ecosystem on his own. Like I don't know what.
Caller, calm down. Hold on, caller. Just chill out.
So I'm sort of just like responding to people on Twitter, and then like just saying whatever comes into my mind, but then that's like anti.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was spun as an attack, kind of, and I mean, I can understand that. I'm not saying that it's unfair necessarily either, because that is kind of a talking point of people who are like anti.
Let me just say this.
Go ahead.
I've spent months off of the internet, so sort of.
Okay, but listen, now go ahead, caller.
You're saying on one hand, you're saying AF is one of the top 0.1% of political projects and is so successful and it's so good. But then on the other hand, you're saying if there was zero censorship, AF would be below TRS. Mike Pinovich, the guy who married a Jew and he's like a total fat dysgenic retard. You think Nick would be below that, really, if there was no censorship?
Vouch is pretty fast.
That's for left wingers. Yeah, left wingers don't have a high disgust tolerance. I mean, they don't really care if someone's disgusting or degenerate. But for a right wing,
I don't think Ralph's appearance. Well, okay, no. Okay,
you're gonna say Ralph is ugly. Okay, all right.
I don't think. I think Ralph. I'm saying I don't think being overweight is like a major detriment. Is as much of a detriment as you think it is. I don't think people care that much.
Okay. Well, I think he's a total like dumbass. I don't think he would actually be at all entertaining or charismatic or a good content creator if there was no censorship. And Nick is actually currently more censored than he is. He still has a paywall. Remember that he has a paywall on his site. Nick struggles with payment processing. He struggles with he's more debanked than Mike Enoch is. That's for sure.
I guess, but you can't. I mean, TRS can't use credit cards. They have to use either crypto or some sort of mail-in sort of thing.
Okay. Well, I just think it's like you're trying to like say, oh well, if Nick,
I think they're both comprehensively debanked.
But either way, the point is like,
is that a contest? I don't know what the contest is.
The point is, I think Nick is more censored than TRS. I think Nick is more attacked by the establishment than TRS, and I think that Nick is more of a threat to the establishment. And if there was no censorship, based on the value.
All right, Banana, finish your thought and then let Ryan get in there.
I think Nick would definitely overshadow TRS without a doubt.
All right, go ahead, Ryan.
And he is handsome. Right. He is handsome.
Right. Well, the point I was. Like what I was saying was not that Nick is more or less censored than TRS. I think they're basically both fully censored. Like I don't think differences in censorship between the two are that meaningful. I know, for example, you can't find TRS on Google. But what I was saying was that Nick's big growth came after he had been kicked off of YouTube, right? And so I don't know if. Well, okay. Well, then that's an empirical thing.
Well, you're wrong. Okay, let me explain to you. Nick got his first big bump, big growth when he was on YouTube during Gorper Wars, and then his viewership declined when he was on DLive. It raised and declined. It was like kind of up and down, but it was definitely not really better than YouTube. It was just the same kind of level as YouTube. And then during the
that's actually kind of
he got impressive. Censored. Yeah, he got. I know it is. That's what I'm saying. It is impressive. That means
to be able to pull that viewership over.
That means if he was on YouTube and there was no censorship, he would outgrow TRS and most other content creators easily. If there was no censorship, and there was, and he still grew. And after DLive and America First outside life, there was a bit of a decline. And then he gained it back up because Nick is great at marketing. He knows that he has a loyal fan base. He can grow people, he can get people more people to his side because Nick is good at that. Nick is a genius at that. But you're saying that like if there was no censorship, TRS would be on the same level as him. I mean, it's just that's not true. Because of censorship, there are people like Vosh who are on top of the charts and Hassan who's on top of the charts. But if there was no, it would be more. I think if there was no, it would be more fair. It would be more like it'd be more.
Well, let me put it like this: when TRS, when TRS went onto YouTube, I forget how long they had their channel, but their channel was banned. I know it was less than a month. Now, granted, they were able to they were getting viewership transfer over from TRS to YouTube, so it wasn't exactly like they were starting from nothing. But the thing is, TRS was allowed on YouTube far less than Fuentes. So, and again, I'm going.
Are you kidding me?
Okay. No, I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you.
Oh, you're not kidding me, dude. You don't understand how like
in regard to
Nick was also shadow banned
one at a time, gentlemen.
Before he got banned.
Go ahead.
Okay, but I mean, let me put it this way: was Nick not shadow banned for more than a month on YouTube?
I guess so, yeah. In that metric, that specific cherry pick metric, you're right. In that cherry pick metric, you're right. Yeah.
All right, let me play some of these super chats. Hold on,
every metric is going to be cherry picked.
Let's play these super chats and get to the questions.
Every instance is an instance.
Let's hear from the audience. Hold on. Go ahead, Jacuzzi.
Jacuzzi sent $3. Explain yourself to the Council of Cozy Heathen.
Council of Cozy.
Ava now it's Chartsburg sent $3. Nigga, you either suck dick or now. Ain't no gay-ish.
Facts, man.
All right, hold on.
Bambiggia Bomb sent $3. Nick is Catholic. He is celibate. Those who demons run their lives cannot understand. They are slaves to their desires. Nick is not. That is why he is attacked on his celibacy. Without these vices, Nick is free to reach his full potential.
Paster my cunt sent $3. Wasn't TRS going after Devin Stack, aka Black Pilled? If that's true, TRS is a bunch of fucking retarded spurgs and in no way would be more successful than Nick. All hype, no disrespect, but you're simply wrong on that. QOO% $3 LOL. This nigga getting bricked up talking about Nick. He says my brick dick. What? He's gay.
I don't know any.
Not even the Ralph Molly safe.
That is not. The Ralph Molly is safe. All right, now there's. Hold on, this is
Bill Burr's take on Kanye age 12.
Bill Burr's take on Kanye. Okay, I will play that. Sorry, that just now came in, by the way.
Richard Percival sent $3. Even if you countersign on Nick. Thanks for streaming that Holocaust census myth stream on Cozy. That red pilled me a lot.
All right, so you're getting some thanks, even if they're not agreeing with you. All right, now let's see. Then this. I mean, I guess this is a talking point that I've seen, but you can. I think you kind of talked about it earlier.
Notorious homosexual alt-type accusing Nick of being gay says he will go on the kill stream HTTPS://
Well, he's here now. Why is that just now popping up?
Idison sent $3. All throughout history, the #1 reason great men have been taken down is because of sexual relations women. Nick is smart. Steve.
What do you say about that? It's a pretty good strategy.
Yeah. Well, you know, that look. The thing is, there are other explanations. So that's I said 50-50. So there you go. I mean, what's his face? Who is Trump's VP?
Pence. Yeah.
He sort of he did that same thing. He said he wouldn't go alone with another woman in a room. So simply because of like accusations against
that was actually one of the smartest things Pence did. I can tell you from my own experience, getting tied up with the wrong woman can really affect your day to day, even when you're allegedly free of that person. So.
I recently, it was sad to see with Medicare. I thought he'd sort of be above this. But like Medicare of all people, you'd imagine like wouldn't be on the whole believe all women sort of train. But there he was when
that's what I said. You would think him out of anybody would be saying don't trust these hoes, but instead it's Mr. Me Tooker now. So yeah, it is pretty crazy. Yeah, that was one of my favorites. I know. Let's see. We have another caller. I don't know if he wants to talk. Did you want to ask him something too while he's here?
Do you want to talk about something more interesting? Like
Goose.
Oh, what's going on, Ralphie? Oh, how we doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing great. Go ahead.
All right. So all type. Like to say that Mike Enoch would be as popular as Nick if they had an even platform, it's straight retarded. It's okay to be wrong though. The problem is you're implying that Nick is gay.
Yeah, bro.
Fuck, man. Like you're on his platform, one, and also he's not. You are. Where are you coming from with this?
Listen, all type. The only thing you said today that's right.
How does me being gay make Nick what?
Well, it shows that you're a coon brain. You're a coon brain who doesn't understand religion. You don't understand.
That sounded like a scene from a movie or something. That was like
you don't understand
from Goodfellas or something. Hey, where do you get off?
No. You are incorrect about that. At least for the past 4 years. For the past 4 years, I have understood celibacy.
Why don't you understand how Nick? Why don't you understand Nick being celibate? Then why don't you understand Nick being celibate if you've been celibate the last 4 years? Mr. Falk.
Now, have you been celibate? I mean, you don't have to get into all that if you don't want, but.
Yeah. Not exactly
And also,
incel,
you're
but
saying
like
anybody besides
lack of effort. Lack of effort, I will say.
You're saying anybody
Lack of
else
effort.
besides Nick Fuentes would be. It's Nick Fuentes. There's never been anybody else like this.
Yeah, he's a unique
You're
guy.
on
He's an
every
eccentric
platform
dude.
streaming.
All right, now let me.
Dude, like all this stuff you're saying that's like the 50. That's like the 50.
You have such a feminine voice, dude.
Not gay side.
All right,
that's like the 50.
So what?
Like
He's
50-50.
straight retarded.
All right, callers. Thank you, Goose. I appreciate you getting in there.
Thank you, Ralphie. Love you, big guy.
All right, thank you. Love you too, man. Have a good weekend.
Bye, Goose.
All right.
Love
Oh,
Goose.
we have more callers getting in on this. Okay, hold on. Let me play this super chat. Maybe we'll watch the Bill Burr thing before you go. That'll be something to discuss.
On Hold Hype here.
Yeah, I think they're coming in
Reese
too.
sent $10 for Alt Hype.
What is this?
Are you a fucking mumbling, stuttering little fuck? You know that?
Let's see. Yeah. All right, and then there's this one. It's on a
Uncle Alan sent $3. Wow, this giggling
Now, wait a
homosexual is deflecting so hard. You accused Nick of being homosexual. Haha.
Well, I guess I was kind of.
Fuck you. Fine guy.
I mean, I see your position as well. I was just saying, whatever my offhanded thought. But I mean, I guess some of his fans might see that as like a dig or an attack, kind of.
Yep.
I mean, that's. I mean, do you see? Wait, hold on. Let me talk a minute. Wait. Just hold on.
Sure.
Mute for a second. Do you see where that might be coming from?
Yeah, but they're wrong. Like.
Okay, well, I mean, I understand that's your position. I'm just saying, I do see where they might be coming from a little. I mean, I'm talking to you now. I get along with you. I like you, but I do see their point a little bit because it looks a little bit like you're, throwing random shade about him. You think he's gay.
I'm like 50-50. Okay.
Well, no, I mean, I'm just saying.
What do you?
Well, do you think that's fair? I guess. Like, do you think it's fair that people would interpret that as like an attack?
They could.
Do you think it is? What would you call it? It's just your observation, or
I no. Like, I mean, I guess like when someone is bringing like that. Yeah, I don't have an eidetic memory of the thread, but this is just my own memory. Is that there was some other person saying that they think Nick is asexual, and then I just said yeah or maybe, and then a whole bunch of other people started responding and pulling out of me what I thought. And so now you're right. I could have just not responded, or I could have just I could have said nothing, and that.
Well, it's Twitter, so people see it. Yeah,
but I didn't. So because I can't control.
Well, I mean, you know how it is. It's so, Twitter, and then somebody sees that and they're like, "Oh, he's talking shit," and then they go and talk more about it, and then it becomes more of a thing. I don't know. Let me bring in a caller. Avon, go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Ralph, it's been too long, brother. How the fuck are you?
I'm doing great, man. How you doing? Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you and the family, my brother. Yo, Old Hype, I'm Avon Chartsdale, bro. Nice to meet you. How you doing?
All right, I guess.
Sweet. Listen, so I don't know a whole lot about the whole thing between you and Nick. I didn't see this whole thing. I kind of just got schooled to it on air. But you said something on air I got to ask you about. You said you're gay-ish, my nigga. So, yo, do you suck dick or do you not suck dick, bro?
No, wait a minute.
Not in a while.
But you have sucked dick before. But cock has been inside your mouth, right?
No. Are you interested, or like what are you trying?
No, I just want to know because gay-ish is not a thing, my nigga. You either a faggot or you not. If you suck some cock in your mouth, bro, you're probably fucking gay.
No, wait, hold on.
Just say it with your chest, right? Like have a pair of balls and be like, yeah, I'm gay, nigga.
Now wait. What does gay-ish mean?
I'm just not interested in anymore.
Okay.
So you sucked like 5 or 6 cocks and then you decided it's not for you? Like you like trying out smoking weed or something like that? Like, I don't think that's how it works personally.
Do they have patches for that? No, sure. All right, thank you, Ralph. Thank you, Avon. Appreciate it. All right, he also has an echo, but I dealt with it. Okay, now let's see. Okay, there's a couple more super chats. They're mostly hostile, but.
Go like a grappler sent $3 Alt Hype. Leave Nick's name out of your mouth.
It's not a dick. It's still good to have you. Still good to have you back on the show, though. All right, now.
Anonymous sent $5. Why would you say this right as Nick is having the biggest moment of his career? Seems like you're a jealous faggot.
Now, what do you say? I guess some people are. You did say this, right? Like, right? You did kind of go out there and, put your statement out there, right? Like, you did kind of draw this on yourself a little bit. I mean, so I don't know. Thoughts.
I was replying to people, and it was like one step at a time. I said well, maybe, and then so, well, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? And I was like, okay, well, this is what I mean by that. And then they're mad at me for saying what I meant by that. So I don't know. I mean, I could have just said, "Oh, nothing, never mind."
Well,
I don't believe anything.
Well, and you're here on the Sunrise, and you've been talking to people and taking college attendance.
I don't know. What people want me to, like say, "Oh, never mind." I don't think that anymore. I've been convinced that there's zero chance that Nick is gay. Like, I mean, I don't think it matters that much for the movement on the whole.
All right. Well, I mean, that's kind of like. That's like a key talking point from like anti-Nick people, basically.
Oh, okay. Well, good for them. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he is, but I can see why somebody would see you saying that and then immediately be like, well, this guy's, spreading negative talking points or whatever. I mean, I think that's what happened, right? Like, I don't know, Chad can weigh in on their own with whatever they think, but okay, now let me play a couple of the.
Well, I mean, I can't like take it back. Like, I can't go like, oh, I don't believe that now. Like, so yeah. Like, oh, now I have been convinced. I will not. Like, I can't. I don't know.
No, I don't. Yeah. No, they ain't gonna give you. Let me play.
Richard Percival sent $3. You calling Nick gay is worse than the Holocaust.
Worse than the Holocaust.
Well, yeah, because one of the things happened.
What do you think would happen if you called Nick gay? Face to face with one of us.
Nothing. What happened? Is this another clip?
Man fading in the night sent $10.
What are you staring at, you prick?
Now, wait a minute. The old phone meeting?
Get out of here. I got a marker.
Alright. Let's go more.
Anonymous sent $3. Nick doesn't commit sodomy. So, this is pointless.
Okay.
I never said he did.
Buddy Valentine
I never said he did.
If you didn't ask me why I'm a flaming homosexual, maybe I wouldn't be such a flaming homosexual. Says hype. Nigga, just take the L. Also being a man like Down syndrome proto-Jew Enoch is the biggest fucking L of all. Fine God, you cock-thirsty fag.
Are you a Mike Enoch guy?
I find his show interesting. I mean, I probably watch like or listen to like an entire show every month. So like more than just about anything else. So yeah. I guess like one show a month is fine.
Okay, that's pretty solid. All right, now let me see here.
Anonymous sent $5. You can't take it back. The only way to make this right is for you to kill yourself. Turbo Goreka sent $3. Alpha literally sucks cock. BTW. Homo style. Clout chasing faggot.
Homo style. Is there another style? I don't know. No.
Clout chasing?
Yeah, I don't know what that part is.
That's not true. That I am not a clout chaser.
I messaged him to come on, so I just wanted more. I just wanted some arguing for the show. Since he's already arguing on Twitter and they wanted to get him on, I figured, well, I'll just message him. So
clout chasing. When was my last stream? Like that is a bizarre.
You haven't been streaming as much actually. Ada Wolf.
Like in months.
Yeah, Ada Wolf. Go ahead. Get your call in.
So boys, can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up? Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you.
I don't know much about the alt hype, but do you have some sort of like, did you say you have like social autism?
Not really.
I mean, you kind of.
I mean, the autism thing is kind of a meme. Maybe I am, and I'm just like blissfully unaware of it or something. But I don't feel awkward in around people.
You seem not to be understanding why people are angry. You see our boy out there is about ready to score a goal, and you're the guy sticking your foot out to trip him with stupid comments that nobody fucking asked for.
No, wait.
So I just don't understand.
No, they quite clearly asked for it.
I don't really.
No. They were asked. They were quite clearly saying, "What did you mean by that?" And I wasn't.
Why would you make that comment to begin with? Why would you even bother? Like, why would you do anything to hurt what we're doing right now? We're like full steam ahead, bro. Like, get on the fucking train or shut the fuck up. That's where we're at right now, man. Like, why are you even bothering to do this to begin with? Why are you doing anything at all that might even hurt the movement? Like, I just don't understand. Like, our guys out there, they get slings and arrows from the mainstream media, every corner of the internet, and then you got to come in and be like, I think the guy might be gay. Like, who fucking cares? A, what you think. B, why would you even make that comment to begin with?
Clearly you care what I think. So answer with that.
No, I really don't give a shit. I just think.
All right, now hold on. Hold on.
No. I'll respond to your other stuff. But first, you do give a shit because I'm here. You're talking. You're getting hot and bothered. So yeah, you do give a shit. So
I'm more pissed off about USA not making it through the World Cup than I give a shit about what you have to say. Let me tell you.
Okay. But clearly you do give a shit about what I have to say because you're making a big stink about it. Okay, so
I think if you're a fucking idiot.
Don't do this. I don't care. Don't do this. I don't care.
Throwing little pebbles from the audience, acting like a big shot. Dude, like seriously, why would you even bother to do this right now? I don't really care that I said this comment, and people are mad at me, and I'm just going to sit here and act like none of it matters, and I'm too autistic to get why people are angry. I'm too above it.
Now wait.
Is that my own farts?
Now wait. Hold on. Let him respond. What do you say to what he said originally about you volunteering the comment and all that?
Well, the only comment that I responded to was somebody who was saying that they thought Nick was asexual. So that's how it started. Someone says, I think Nick's just asexual. And then
you said, I don't know, unless he's...
Well, maybe. Oh, I said, I can't even find...
It was something like maybe, or... Yeah, hold on, I got the tweet, I think. Right here.
Okay. Like, or maybe, ... And that was it. That was it. So that's the big attack. That was the attack, according to this caller, that I volunteered. That was the big attack on Nick.
It's like remember everything from the top shelf. Like you're just being
everything else came. Okay, you know what? You're right. I should not have posted that tweet. But that's where it could have ended, and nobody could have seen it. The problem is people are all coming at me saying, "What do you mean by this? What do you mean by this? What do you mean by this?" Okay, tell me. Like I don't know why.
You're saying that. Wait. Hold on. So you're saying that it's a comment. That wait. You're saying it's a comment you shouldn't have made, but it got blown up even further, and then basically you have to expound on it, and it's made an even bigger thing. That's your position.
Yeah, that's not it.
Okay, now Ada Wolf, respond to that.
I think this is the attention that you wanted. I think that you're making little sneak disses, you're throwing little barbs, you're putting your leg out in the aisle just trying to see what you can trip up because you needed attention or you're just fucking feeling yourself. I don't.
Okay, I'm back. Had a refreshing lunch there with my brother, some avocado toast, watched some cricket. So Australia's ahead by about 80 runs after the first innings against South Africa, taking 2 quick wickets. The South Africans are 2 wickets down for just 3 runs in their second inning. So it looks like Australia is in a commanding position to win this opening test match. So Australia is the #1 ranked test match team in the world right now. And South Africa is #2, even though South Africa has an enforced affirmative action program in its test cricket team to make sure that they have a number of black players on it. So even after the end of apartheid, South Africa's best cricket players were overwhelmingly white. So cricket's traditionally been a white sport in South Africa, but now thanks to affirmative action, they've got some black players. Right, important article here in the Washington Post, right, how a Trump-allied group fighting anti-white bigotry is consistently beating Joe Biden in court. So America First Legal was founded last year by Stephen Miller, the architect of Trump's immigrant family separation policy. So Stephen Miller is very
This
effective.
news story was written by Beth Reinhard and Josh Dawsey. How a Trump-allied group fighting anti-white bigotry beats Biden in court. America First Legal was founded last year by Stephen Miller, the architect of Trump's immigrant family separation policy. The deal in early 2021 was hailed by advocates for black farmers as the most significant piece of legislation since the Civil Rights Act of 1964, about $4 billion in President Biden's massive pandemic stimulus package to rectify decades of discrimination. Minority farmers began investing in new machinery and other improvements, anticipating tens of thousands of dollars in government aid. But today, the landmark deal on behalf of historically disadvantaged farmers is dead, successfully challenged in court by a fledgling conservative organization that argued the program racially discriminated against white farmers.
Well, it obviously did racially discriminate against white farmers. So Stephen Miller is incredibly effective. Steve Saylor talked about this story. So Stephen Miller acts as if the United States Constitution requires the equal protection of the laws. What is he, some kind of nut? Now, it's striking how quickly this insane theory that the basic idea of constitutional theory is that law should right historical wrongs for groups rather than provide justice for individuals from now into the future, how righting historical wrongs for groups has become the conventional wisdom. So the idea that the Constitution mandates equal rights for white people as well as blacks is now seen as appallingly in bad taste. No other argument other than Stalinoid whom is put forward in favor of these bigoted laws that's considered ample enough these days.
America First Legal is headed by Stephen Miller, the architect of President Donald Trump's crackdown on illegal immigrants. While AFL lacks the name recognition and financial heft of many conservative counterparts, it has racked up notable court victories over the Biden administration. Casting itself as the long-awaited answer to the ACLU, AFL has weaponized the grievance politics embodied by Trump's Make America Great Again movement through dozens of federal lawsuits.
Wait. So this legislation that gives racial preferences to black people, that's not working off grievance politics, right? The left doesn't try to maximize grievance politics. Apparently it's only angry white people who practice grievance politics. Really?
It's challenging efforts to remedy racial disparities, support LGBTQ students, and expand the pool of early voters.
You can never expand rights for one group without significantly reducing rights for other groups, all right? It's not like, oh, there's just an infinite variety of rights you can forever expand. So Ethan Ralph says, my dog dying threw me for a loop, that and all the other off-the-record nonsense. That nonsense may soon be on the record, though. Friendly advisory, I'd rather not, but you know me. Anyway, I've been taking some time to myself. My apologies on the missed shows. That's the update from Ethan Ralph. But the news media never seems to take into consideration that when you expand rights for one group, right, or when you expand certain rights in one area of life, you're diminishing rights in other areas. So if you say you can't discriminate in rental opportunities or in selling property or in employment, right, you're saying that people, are losing rights over who they can sell to, rent to, or hire. You are reducing freedom of association while expanding other rights.
AFL-backed suits helped doom a $29 billion program that prioritized struggling female and minority-owned restaurants last year, and last week, a council created by the Department of Education that conservative parents groups viewed as partisan. AFL has won in part by consistently filing lawsuits in a conservative-friendly judicial district in Texas.
Stephen Miller's incredibly effective. Like, he knows how to play the game, right? Very different bloke, from those who just bloviate and theorize. Stephen Miller consistently makes differences in the real world. Let's have a look at the comment section on Steve Saylor's website. When lighting your Hanukkah candles this year, so Hanukkah begins at sundown, think of Stephen Miller, who's been disowned by his relatives for not buying into their historically ignorant analogy between Jewish refugees from Nazism and the opportunists now invading across the Rio Grande. So Stephen Miller, right, he's Jewish, and he has done more than anybody to reduce immigration to this country.
And taking advantage of a larger federal court system revamped by Trump's predominantly conservative nominees. The group's success is alarming civil rights advocates, who fear Miller has figured out how to harness the courts to protect America's declining white majority and unravel government policies intended to right historical wrongs against marginalized communities. Many of these
historical wrongs against marginalized communities. So is there any chance that marginalized communities have contributed consistently to their own problems, right? Or do these marginalized communities completely lack agency? So if they suffer bad life results, that always has to be as a result of evil white people. So here's another great comment on Steve Saylor's blog. Write a Washington Post article that negatively profiles a right-wing group founded by a former Trump administration official. Criticize the group for successfully suing the Biden administration to prevent preferential treatment of black farmers. Complain that the group stopped a multi-billion-dollar giveaway privileging restaurant owners claiming to be female or minority while excluding white males. Note with disapproval that another lawsuit forced the shutdown of a leftist AstroTurf council funded by the Department of Education. Include a quote from civil rights activist David Hinoso, who fears that the organization is harnessing the courts to promote colorblind treatment that could benefit America's declining white majority. Exclude the concept of equal protection under the law from the article. And in unrelated news yesterday, the Washington Post announced a large layoff of reporters whose costs are higher than the value added by authoring unique stories prized by subscribers. Amazing.
These lawsuits are centered on making sure that white people remain in control and continue to benefit from unearned privileges, and on maintaining the systemic discriminatory policies that have harmed black people and other people.
White people like brown people and black people and yellow people or any shade of people, are the primary authors of their own privilege or lack thereof, right? If your people works hard, gets an education, builds solid families, they will tend to prosper. If your people tends to go on welfare at disproportionate rates and commit disproportionate rates of crime, have disproportionate rates of sexually transmitted diseases, disproportionately murders each other as well as outside groups, tends to achieve very low levels of education, then that group is sowing its own misfortune, right? Groups, generally speaking, are the primary authors of their own success or failure in life.
People of color for generations, said David Hinojosa, an attorney with the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights under law. To argue that white men are being pushed to the back of the line is unfounded and ridiculous.
Really? Really? So you advantage other groups, but you never discriminate, right? You can't give, blacks or women or gays, preferential treatment and claim that nobody else is adversely affected. I mean, why are we calling these people civil rights activists? From Steve Saylor's blog, surely there ought to be a more accurate term for those who deem legally mandated preferential treatment to unearned subsidies and more desirable jobs, right? Maybe we should call them black supremacists, matriarchal empowerment. Like, how do we get to, label them civil rights activists? And just imagine $29 billion set aside for female and minority-owned restaurants. Why? It's like George Orwell, right? All animals are equal. Some animals are more equal than others, right? The Stephen Miller group is made to sound like some sort of white advocacy group, but it expressly combats de jure, means legal discrimination against any ethnic or racial group, especially but not limited to white and Asian males. So it's hilarious how the article makes jurisdiction shopping, such as in Texas, seem like some sort of nefarious practice, when grudgingly acknowledging that left-wing groups do this all the time in California. But when the right-wing do it, it's absolutely evil. So leftists do it totally correctly by shopping their cases to several leftist judges, right, who will consistently side with them. That's a good thing. When right-wing people practice the same tactic, that's nefarious.
What they're being asked to do is share a place in line with other people who do not look like them. In an interview, Miller said AFL is filling a void in the conservative legal movement by challenging what he termed a hyperracialization of American political and corporate life. Programs seeking to remedy past injustices and boost historically disadvantaged groups are punishing people based on their skin color, he said.
Historically disadvantaged groups. How much of that disadvantage is self-inflicted?
Said. I believe that the equity agenda represents one of the single greatest threats to the survival of our constitutional system, he said. The group's mission was fueled by more than $6.3 million in donations last year, recent tax filings show, including about $1.3 million from the Conservative Partnership Institute, whose leadership includes key figures in the effort to overturn the 2020 election. Steve Wynn, the casino magnate who resigned as finance chair of the Republican National Committee in 2018 amid allegations of sexual misconduct, is an AFL donor, according to two people familiar with the group's work who were not authorized to speak publicly about its fundraising. Wynn, who has denied the allegations, declined to comment. AFL is part of a constellation of groups led by Trump allies that represent an administration in waiting upon his potential return to the White House. AFL's all-white, all-male board includes loyalists who recently trekked to Mar-a-Lago for Trump's 2024 campaign announcement, including Miller, who helped write the speech, former...
So all black groups or all Japanese groups or all Mexican groups, that's A-okay, but wow, if it's an all-white group, that must be nefarious.
Office of Management and Budget head Russell Vought and former acting Attorney General Matthew G. Whitaker. Miller, who is expected to work for the 2024 campaign, received $110,762 from AFL last year, about $134,000 from his Save America political committee since Trump left office, and is slated to be paid about $80,000 by the General Services Administration as part of Trump's post-presidency funds, government documents show. In the lead-up to the midterm election, AFL also bankrolled a multi-million-dollar ad campaign that included inflammatory radio and TV.
Oh, inflammatory, meaning choosing those selective examples of left-wing deranged conduct that is most compelling and egregious. That's inflammatory. Looking at the comment section on Steve Saylor's site, remembering those 3 Georgians that got railroaded last year for defending their neighborhood against a jogger. Right, this happened due to prosecutor shopping. They were not charged by the local prosecutor. Right, they had to find a different judiciary to successfully railroad these men for murder. So, looking at the Daily Mail, we're not asking, we're telling you. Business owner demands Black people receive $350,000 each in reparations since we worked for free during slavery. This is at a public hearing of California Reparations Committee, even though there was no slavery in California.
Spots demanding an end to anti-white bigotry and accusing the White House, businesses, and universities of discriminating against white people. Trump critics see AFL as the extension of a White House that frequently stoked racial division and a former president who last month dined at his Florida home with 2 well-known anti-Semites. The Trump administration didn't care about people like me, it was for white men, and that's what this group represents and is fighting for, said John Boyd, president of the National Black Farmers Association, which intervened in the AFL-backed lawsuit challenging the aid to minority farmers. It's continuing the
So just an amazing line here. The group's success, meaning Stephen Miller's success, is alarming civil rights advocates, right? Just imagine equal protection under the law is alarming the news media, alarming civil rights advocates. They don't want equal protection under the law, right? Who fear Stephen Miller has figured out how to harness the courts to protect America's declining white majority. So, equal protection under the law. That's harnessing the courts to protect America's declining white majority. I got it.
Legacy of divisiveness. Miller, though, argues that AFL is fighting against bigotry and insanity. I think that it is inescapably true that there is insidious and explicit discrimination against white Americans, Asian Americans, Indian Americans, and Jewish Americans based on their skin color and their ancestry, he said.
So, Stephen Miller is Trump's immigration family separation policy. So, any jailing of criminals, that's also a family separation policy. So, laws against theft, murder, arson, right? Anything that leads to a parent being incarcerated and therefore not around their kids, that's family separation policy.
According to Trump advisors who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss private conversations, Miller stays in close touch with Trump, contributes to his speeches, and gave significant input on his endorsements in the mid.
Stephen Miller is doing great work. There's another comment on Steve Saylor. The Constitution was a reflection of a particular culture, which itself was a reflection of a particular people. In this case, Anglo-Saxon settlers of colonial America. Institutions are downstream from culture, which is downstream from biology. Change the biology, you will change the institutions. The Constitution will not save any particular racial group, including whites. Its words and ideas do not reflect the new reality in America, do not reflect the new Americans. So it will be reinterpreted to the point of no longer existing in any meaningful way. The boomers who still believe in the Constitution, who remain the dominant voting bloc, the only thing keeping the country from moving sharply to a form of racial socialism. But they too shall pass, and with them, the Constitution.
Midterm election, where many Trump-backed candidates who rejected Biden's 2020 victory and took other far-right positions were defeated. Miller repeatedly complained during the campaign that Republican candidates were not talking enough about culture war issues and immigration and focusing too heavily on an economic message.
So Steve Saylor's chat says Trump should have listened more to Stephen Miller and Steve Bannon, less to his idiot daughter Ivanka and son-in-law Jared Kushner.
Who spoke to him said, America is the apex of achievement of Western civilization, Miller said, with a heritage to be jealously guarded.
So the last time I was talking to Andrew Breitbart was about this Barack Obama administration program to extend special subsidies and monies to black farmers. That was the last thing we talked about. It was just a few months before his death.
Miller founded AFL in early 2021, as a newly elected President Biden issued a flurry of executive orders dismantling the former president's nativist agenda. Miller was involved in policies fervidly challenged by civil rights groups that banned immigration from several Muslim-majority countries.
So seeking equal protection under the law, that's just being nativist, dude.
And separated immigrant children from their parents. During the 4 years of the Trump administration, especially in the arena of immigration, every single executive action, no matter how rigorously lawful, was subjected to a never-ending stream of activist litigation, Miller said.
Yeah, good point. Okay, the obvious thing to do, says Steve Saylor's chat, is to pass local laws making it illegal to discriminate against white Americans, traditional Christians, heterosexual males. Right? The important thing is not just to be right, to be holy, to be spiritual, but to be effective. Steve Miller is incredibly effective.
Miller said. One of my goals when I left the administration was to try to help and inspire and coordinate a larger legal movement on the conservative side of the spectrum to do the same. AFL was among several groups incubated in the first year of the Biden administration by the Conservative Partnership Institute, a central hub of the GOP's pro-Trump wing. CPI describes AFL as a partner on its website, and 3 AFL board members, including Mark Meadows, who served as a chief of staff to the former president, also have top CPI posts.
Okay, so comment here. Whites are supposed to roll over, quietly accept the dispossession. Noticing it, much less fighting back, is a conspiracy theory wrapped inside a blanket of white supremacy. I don't like living in a society with a high level of distrust and racial conflict, but it is here now. It's time to start asking the public who they want to be ruled by, given what that means for various segments of the population. So I'm going to be back in approximately 10 minutes.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Wants to say that you're
you're
This is actually gay. This is gay behavior.
All right,
this is legit. I'm not talking about man-on-man action. I'm talking about little feminine high school hair-pulling girl energy right now. That's what I'm getting.
Dude, how about you want to know what's feminine gay behavior is like the AF crew saying, go on the Ralph Report and talk about this and make this into a big stink. I'm happy to not talk about this. I'm happy to just shut up and talk about things that are way more interesting. You are the fucker that wants to talk about this. You are the little faggot that wants to talk about all this shit and make big fucking drama about all this shit. Okay? So shut the fuck up!
Bro. I'm just entertained, bro.
You're not just entertained. You're the one coming on here. No. No, you're coming on here. I'm sure you are entertained, and I'm happy to entertain you. But the reality is, you guys are the ones who want to talk about it. You are the ones. You're the guys that want to talk about all this stuff.
No, wait. Hey, don't let him talk. Let him talk. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
You know what? He's right. He's right. I am dancing. Because these people are the ones who want to make a big stink about this. These are the people that want to talk about this. And let me ask you this: why do you guys want? Why are you creating this? Why did you guys want this? All this discussion about Nick's sexuality to be a thing? I don't. Now I stupidly. You know what? You're right. I stupidly posted one tweet saying yeah or maybe ... Right. But the thing is, that tweet got like no likes. Nobody saw it. Nearly, obviously somebody saw it, but nearly nobody saw it, and that's where it could have left. That's where it could have been.
Yeah, but you know how the internet. No, wait, hold on. Let me. Wait.
Let me ask you that.
Finish your thought, and then let me talk.
Rob, let me ask this. Why do you care so much about homosexuality? Why do you guys always come in? You're always talking about sucking dicks. Like on my streams when I have the total 4, I basically never talk about gay stuff. I mean, I talk about it in the abstract in terms of historical attitudes of homosexuality and stuff like that, but I never talk about like gay things, right? You guys do.
No, wait, hold on.
You guys do.
Now, hold on. I want to speak. I want to speak. First thing, I'm not talking about it.
Let him answer.
You want him to answer? Okay, all right. Okay, because I want to.
Not you, Ralph.
Okay. Go ahead, Ada.
I mean, I don't really care what other guys do.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Because you're making. No. You're making this. You're making this. Why are you so fixated on that? Why are you fixated? I don't talk about that. I don't bring that up.
I would have said the same thing if you would have made a comment about the way he dresses, or maybe his nails nails are
That's
too
fine.
long, or if you hated his hairstyle. It's just throwing stupid, needless barbs out there when the man's strutting strong. He's got all the world on his back gunning for him, and you're over here just throwing little barbs, like little sneak.
No, you know what? I figured it out. I fucking figured it out. You're the ones throwing barbs. Right?
No,
because you're making this.
I'm back at
you're
home
making
team,
this into a
baby.
thing.
I'm back at home team.
You're whatever. You're the ones who wants to make this into some issue.
No, I'm not making a big issue.
Shut up. You are. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here if your little crew didn't make to use a cliche, didn't want to make a mountain out of a molehill. You guys wanted to make a mountain out of a molehill. You wanted it.
I just think you're throwing little. I think you're just throwing. Fucking,
no, shut up. No, what are you talking about? No. Your little fat crew. Your little fat crew wanted me to be on here. I'm on here at your little boys club's request. Okay.
Okay, so now the Groypers are a little fat crew to you. The Groypers are a little fat crew to you now, huh? Is that what it is?
Do you have even the capacity to tell the truth? Like, no. Why don't you bend the knee and apologize for your stupid little gay sneak disses and just man up and say, you know what, I shouldn't have done it. I apologize.
All right,
okay, buddy, I think you can actually watch the stream again. You can actually go back once this is uploaded and you can see that I actually said I shouldn't have made that initial comment. But the reality, and so yes, I did bend the knee. Right, but you're not accepting. You don't accept that. No. Shut up. You did not accept that. Why? Because you wanted to make this into a thing. I didn't want. Granted, you know what? You're right. I shouldn't have done a little innuendo. Okay, you know what? You're right. That was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. You know, okay. You're right. You're right.
If you're being honest about it, I'll take it. You know?
No. Shut up. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. You're not taking. You're the one who wanted to make this into a thing. You're the one who wanted to have this fight. You're the one who wanted to highlight that Nick's sexuality, this non-issue, this complete fucking non-issue. Right? You're the one who wanted to highlight something about it, not me. I wasn't saying anything about it. I've done a whole bunch of streams on the site. You know what? I did talk about it, and I talked about it in response to super chats, just like on Twitter. I talked about it in response to other comments.
Oh, so you talked about it on your stream.
So there's the pattern. That's the pattern. I talk about things that get.
Now, were you tagged in this tweet originally? Were you tagged in this tweet originally, or did you just respond on your own?
And let me make it clear. When I say they're stupid fat club, I'm not talking about all AFers. This is a particular group of. It's like 20 people. No, it's you. It's like you and like this 20 people on like responding to these comments here. You know,
bro, I'm just hanging out watching, Ralph, my boy. I'm not sitting here trying to start fights with anybody. But
hold on.
Apology if you want to give your
apology.
Shut up.
No, wait, hold on. Wait, hold on.
No, you did. No, you are starting a fight. You're starting this fight.
No, wait, hold on. Were you tagged?
That's a lie. That is a deliberate lie.
Wait, did somebody ask you this, or did you just respond with this underneath somebody's tweet? Like, did they ask you?
Who are you talking to?
To you. Like, did you just respond to somebody else? Like, no, did you just volunteer this out of the blue?
No. Someone said.
That he was asexual. That's right. You said that. You're right.
Right.
You did say that. They said he was. Hold on. Let me pull it up the original.
So I did sort of go a little bit off tangent on that. So fair enough. But let me put it this way. Hey, now that I think about it, you're concerned about your boy taking all the slings and arrows. Weight of the world is on his shoulders. But.
Okay, let's get back to this Washington Post article on Stephen Miller.
Neither of these tax-exempt groups is required to disclose its donors to the public, though federal campaign records show Trump's political committee, Save America, donated $1 million to CPI last year.
So here's a comment on Steve Taylor's blog. Did it ever occur to anyone that Stephen Miller is not a lawyer? And like the guy is not a legal scholar. Someone else deserves credit, such as the actual lawyers who are litigating for AFL. He is merely the firebrand. Well, he gets the attention, he gets the press, he gets the fundraising that then gets to hire the attorneys.
In its 2021 annual report, CPI called AFL the sling that hardworking, patriotic Americans can use to fight back against the abusive Goliath of the Biden administration's deep state. CPI's revenue exploded last year to $45 million, up from...
So Steve Saylor's commented as complaining about Stephen Miller's personality. It's a shame he comes across so badly to the media, has the personality of a school shooter. The media is just crying out for a sympathetic MAGA spokesman. It's just our bad luck that Stephen Miller has personality issues. Such a shame. What are you going to do? I think Stephen Miller comes across just fine. And more important than that is he's incredibly effective.
From about $7 million in 2020, according to its latest tax filing, obtained by Accountable.us and the Center for Media and Democracy. It's 1.3.
So the Constitution matters moderately, but what's more important is how it is implemented, how it is interpreted, and how it is used. So if gay marriage becomes the law of the land, obviously we are a long way from what was written in the 18th century. So on Steve Saylor's comment section, we're seeing how there is a competing, largely unwritten phantom constitution that gets applied where left-wingers have unchecked power. In the final analysis, people make the law, implement the law, interpret the law, all right? There's no objective law outside of the frailties and prejudices and perspectives and loyalties of individuals. So it's insane to think the 14th Amendment enshrined into law discrimination against white men, but that is the prevailing assumption in elite institutions that this is the spirit of the 14th Amendment, the material equality and leveling rather than equality before the law. So they play a mind trick by discriminating in favor of everyone but white men and Asians. And who has ever established as a matter of objective law and fact that white men are the recipients of unearned privilege? Right? Until the 1980s, the US was essentially biracial. Whites were upwards of 85% of the population. What sort of significant privilege is shared by 85% of a population? So who is even asking white men? Sure seems like we're constantly being lectured, we're being told, we're having things imposed upon us, we're being bullied. I don't recall a conversation, I don't recall receiving the opportunity of a rebuttal. We're in a culture that viciously attacks straight white men, particularly Christians, constantly, which is more likely that these laws and programs are simply good-hearted attempts at making things fair, or that they are a product of a culture, an elite consensus that permits white men to be attacked in terms which no other identifiable group is permitted to be attacked.
$3 million donation to AFL was the largest of 8 grants that it made last year. Tax records also show AFL last year received $25,000 from Donors Trust, a nonprofit that contributes to a number of right-wing causes, and $10,000 from Citizens for Self-Governance, which favors a convention of states to limit the power of the federal government.
Another comment from Steve Saylor's blog. The prevailing method of doing things these days is that the regime kicks the dog until the dog bites, and then when the dog bites, the regime has the pretext to shoot it. So all the anti-white stuff is just supposed to be background noise. You're not supposed to take notice, and they translate it into a law, and you oppose the law and demand that the actual supreme law of the land control things. They treat you like you are a snarling, rabid dog.
Miller declined to answer questions about the group's donors. It's best for your adversaries to have less rather than more information when they meet you in court, he said. A Washington Post review found at least 4 dozen AFL-backed lawsuits filed in federal courts around the country since April 2021, some of which have received little attention outside of right-wing media. To attack Biden's aid to disadvantaged, minority farmers, Miller's group made a brash choice for lead plaintiff, Sid Miller, the Trump-endorsed Agriculture Commissioner of Texas, who has questioned Biden's dire warnings about white supremacy and compared Syrian refugees to rattlesnakes in social media posts. Sid Miller did not respond to interview requests. The lawsuit was later amended to include 4 white plaintiffs who, unlike Sid Miller, actually carried federal farming loans, according to court documents. The suit argued that the debt relief approved by Congress was unconstitutional because it excluded white ethnic groups that have unquestionably suffered ethnic prejudice, referring to Irish, Italian, German, and other European immigrants and Jews. Sid Miller is white, with primarily Scotch and Irish roots, but said in the lawsuit that he has 2% African American ancestry. Any person with a traceable amount of minority ancestry must be regarded as a member of a socially disadvantaged group, the suit said.
So the way the US Census works is that if you identify as black and white, such as Barack Obama, then you're only counted as black. So as far as the US Census works, even if you're only 1/16th black or 1/16th Latino or 1/16th Asian, you still get counted in the census as black, white, Latino, or Asian. So this magnifies the relative numbers of non-whites compared to whites in this country.
It said. Sid Miller earns a $140,938 annual salary as a statewide official. He reported owning about 145 acres of land, a nursery, landscaping business, and a ranch, as well as stock in dozens of companies, according to...
Wow, he must be a bad guy. Looking at the comment section here, mass literacy, mass media have ensured a uniformity of thought that rulers in past eras could only have dreamed of. An illiterate peasant in the past would have had a much stronger grasp on reality than the educated masses do today. I'll never forget how shocked I was when my intelligent and educated brother-in-law, who previously displayed what I thought was capacity for independent thought, got very triggered when I calmly suggested the corporate media is untrustworthy.
According to public records. Known for his signature white cowboy hat, he was first elected agriculture commissioner in 2014 and previously served as a state lawmaker. To black farmers who say they have felt the sting of racial bias, making Sid Miller the face of the legal challenge was an insult. Here is this very powerful person in a huge state who, instead of wanting to assist black farmers, filed a lawsuit to blockade, asked Boyd, who farms soybeans and other crops in Southern Virginia. It's really disheartening. Judge Reed O'Connor, who was nominated by President George W. Bush, ruled in July 2021 in favor of the white plaintiffs, the third of 4 federal court orders that some are against the program.
So why are there so many more conservative judges these days? Because Trump won 2016 and the Republicans were effective in getting conservative judges passed. When is conservative comedy more dominant, more influential, more popular than, say, left-wing comedy? When conservative comedy better reflects reality, right? When you're able to pierce the veil, take away the lies, and get down to the brass tacks of how the world works. And if you're able to do comedy that does that from a right-wing perspective, you're going to be more effective. So Republicans have success to the extent that they are effective, that they're rooted in reality and providing a genuine service.
Congress repealed the program in August. Boyd and 3 other minority farmers represented by civil rights attorney Ben Crump sued the federal government 2 months later, alleging breach of contract by doing away with the debt relief program. That case is ongoing. Black farmers have lost more than 12 million acres in the past century, which agricultural experts attribute in part to discrimination in government loan programs.
And this is just objective truth. There's nothing that those individual farmers misjudged. They didn't make any mistakes anywhere. It's just they have no agency. These things just happen to them. They're not responsible for any of their choices, really. Okay, gonna leave it there for now. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.